Well, hello, good day everyone. I am Fodi and I am back with another edition of Let's Make a Jam Game. This time, just like the last two times, I am making a game for the Captain Coders Learn You a Game Jam 2024, which has the optional theme, only one inventory slot, but I'm going to use it, so it's not optional for me. It's been a few days. I skipped a few sessions that I planned, but yeah, here I am. I'm going to try to add some stuff to the game that I've been working on for 2 sessions. Let me just show you where we are at this point. Hey Flavius, good to see you. The omnipresent Flavius, who is in all Twitch channels that I'm usually watching. I don't know how you do that, but it's a neat trick. So the game, yeah, this is how it looks right now. It's super ugly. It has just some programmer art that I've made, some rectangles and circles, and that's about it. It's going to be a top-down shooter, just a classic twin-stick shooter essentially, that you can control with the keyboard, the mouse, and or the gamepad as well. And I am going to add some assets actually, because yesterday I had a bit of an epiphany and I finally came up with an idea where to go theme-wise with this game. And I figured that since I'm making the game for the Captain Coders Jam, who is a big fan of hats and has many hats, I figured that maybe I should remove the classic weapon stuff from the game, and instead I can have the player put on a different hat and have different projectiles. So essentially the hat is going to be the weapon, and the player can only wear one hat, unlike the captain, who is usually boasting a dozen hats on his head at times. So the assets, yeah. I am going to use some pre-made assets, some of them by this person who is on itch and who has a bunch of free assets. But the tile set that I'm going to use is actually a little different from the official one. Oh, right. Okay, Flavius, is that a threat? So, I'm not sure how to pronounce the name of this user, but 0x20, no, not 20, 72 made this little tile set, but then they continued improving it and they made this. And actually a bunch of people remixed these tile sets, and this tile set, but the one that we are going with is actually, let me just find that. Oh yeah, it's this one. So the walls are a little darker compared to the previous one, but they are also prepared for auto tiling, which I'm going to show you in 1 second. Captain Onosa, hey there, good to see you. Fellow twin stick shooter game dev, exactly. I missed your last stream, I think, but I don't know, do you plan to do something during the weekend maybe? I would love to check out how you're coming along between chess games with your twin stick shooter. So let me know if you plan to do a stream this weekend, because this weekend I want to work on this game, of course, but also check out all the rest of the fellow devs who are making something for this great jam. So yep, that's the plan. Plan to doing a lot this weekend for sure. Would love to see you there. Cool. Right, I'll be there, definitely. I'm guessing you don't have a schedule either, because I really don't have one. I'm always just procrastinating and finally mustering up the courage to start streaming. This time I took like 2 hours of procrastination to start. But yeah, here I am. So, okay, about the assets, yeah. So I made a little test project, which looks like this. It has some tile map objects. And let me just show you how this auto tiling stuff works, because I didn't want to spend much time on stream preparing this, because it's a little tedious, but not too tedious. But essentially, I have a little tile set that looks like this. This is the one that I downloaded from itch. And as you can see, this one only has a bunch of walls and different corners and parts of the wall. And in Construct, you can actually, let me just zoom in a little. So in Construct, you can actually have some auto-tiling brushes with the tilemap object defined. And in this case, I am using a Auto 47 type, which looks like this. Once again, I'm just going to zoom in a little. So essentially, there are a bunch of wall sprites right here, or wall graphics. And I just had to figure out which of these placeholder sprites correspond to the correct one in the tile set. So if I click this button, then you can see, let me just switch a couple of times, that I essentially replaced the placeholders with the correct one. So everywhere you see a little light gray colored, essentially just a light gray color, that just denotes that the wall should go here. So if I switch, as you can see, for example, here, the wall is on the left and the top and in the top left corner. And in the other parts, it's exactly the same. So I just had to essentially click something like right here, for example, this one, and then click right here. And this defined the correct part of the tile set. And now, if that's done, I can just turn on the auto tiling brush and do stuff like this, which is neat. Although I think I might be using the wrong one because, yeah, sorry. Let me just correct that. Okay, this is the correct one. So I can essentially draw any shape, and the auto tiling brush will make sure that the correct part of the tile map is used. I mean, the tile set is used. So there are no funny business around the corners or nothing like that. So this is the brush that I'm going to use to actually make a level. And that's about it. The other tilemap that I'm using in this project is the floor. And right now it's just mostly the same tile, but I added a couple variations. And let me just show you this other. Yeah, so this is the other tile set that I'm going to use. It's just floor tiles, but there are different cracks on the floor, so it can look a little varied. And that's about it. So this template project, I think I'm going to upload by itself to the game's itch page at one point. And I'm also going to copy all of this into the game. And I'm going to check chat from time to time. Good. So back in our project, we left things like this. There are some 9-patch walls. These are going to go. I don't need them anymore because I'm going to use the tilemap objects to make the walls. So I think I'm just going to simply get rid of those by clicking this and then delete, and boom, no more walls. Right, I'm going to check the size of the layout. I think it's the same as the one. Yes, exactly the same. So you can pretty easily move stuff between construct projects just by first copying the object types. In this case, I'm going to copy the floors and the walls. I'm just going to right click and copy. I could also, of course, press Ctrl+C, and under object types in the other project, I can just do paste, and boom, there they are. And if I want to copy the instances, so these, I can just select all and copy them. I'm going to remove this player object and select everything, press Ctrl+C, go to the other project and press Ctrl+V. And now there it is, exactly the same. I'm just going to undo that, give this a little save, and I think I'm going to close it as well because I don't need this anymore. So we're gonna have to have some more layers in the game, however, because I do want to separate some stuff. For example, the floor tile should be the first, the bottom layer, and then I'm probably going to add the main layer, or keep the main layer as is, as the second one from the bottom, and add the third one for the walls. So the players can overlap the walls, but the walls will be on top. That's the plan anyway. So I think I'm just going to do that right now. And also, as I'm probably going to reference the layers from time to time when I'm spawning stuff, I'm going to create some macros for these as well. So at first I'm going to add a layer at the bottom. I'm going to name it floors. And I'm also going to add a layer at the top, which I'm going to name walls. And the main layer right now is non-transparent, but I'm going to turn it transparent. And instead, I'm going to disable transparency on the floors layer. So there's actually a little solid gray color background, but you're not really going to see it because it's going to be, so the wall object should, the walls object should be covering the whole thing. Right, okay, so now I have the walls object selected, and I'm going to move this to the walls layer. I'm going to disable its visibility for a second. Then I have this little placeholder ground object, which I'm also going to get rid of. And something might be amiss because, oh no. The floors didn't really make it, I think, but let me just try something. I'm going to select the floors layer and disable the other top two, and I'm going to try to drag this. Okay, this is all right. So this tile map object will only have the floor tiles, and I could probably do something like, for some reason the tile width and height are wrong, but I'm going to correct it. So I could probably do something like selecting a tile and this, which is the fill area tool, and just fill the whole thing. But instead, I think I'm going to do some actual randomization during runtime. Although I think I'm going to keep it like this, but these tiles will, some of them anyway, will be actually replaced with the correct ones at random. So there's a little bit of variety every time you start the game. Not the walls, but at least the floors. So, right, let me just turn back the other two layers. And I'm also going to run the game to make sure that it's looking the way I want it to look. I'm pressing F4 every time I'm starting the game, by the way. You could also press this button, which runs the current layout. So this is how it looks right now. As you can see, the player cannot go through the walls, which is neat. And right here, they are actually overlapping the walls because this is a top-down view, so the walls are a little bit taller, and this is the effect that I was after, so it's mostly working, I guess. The camera is still working, the shooting is still working, although the projectiles are still, no, sorry, the projectiles are actually not going through the walls anymore, and this is because the walls object has the solid behavior added to it. If I disable this and run the game, then the player once again can cross the walls and also shoot through them, although you don't see the bullets because they are actually on the second layer, and on the third layer, I mean the top layer, are the walls, so they are overlapping the bullet sprites anyway. So yep, that's about it. I'm going to turn back the solid behavior, and I'm going to give the project a new version. I think we are, yes, at 4. I'm going to increment this to 5, and I'm going to save the project file. And the name of the project actually changed, and the URL as well. So right now, I think I'm going to call the game Get the Hat, because of this whole hat weaponry theme. But if someone has a better idea what to call the game, I am all ears, because I'm really not attached to this anyway. So okay, I'm going to quickly check the positioning of the walls, but I think it's almost all right. It's, whoops, it's not centered at this point, I think, but I am going to fix that as well. Or is it? Yeah, no, sorry, it does look centered. Okay, this is fine then. I'm going to turn back the opacity to 100, so good. Right, and about the Right, Flavius, go for it. Bon appetit. So I think I'm going to replace the character sprite as well, or not replace, but add it actually. Usually in Construct, I tend to do things by adding more than one object together as a hierarchy. So I have essentially a collider object, which is the current player object. I'm just going to make sure that the wall and the contents of the wall layer cannot be selected. So now if I click here, then it selects the player. So this player sprite is going to stay. I'm not going to replace the graphics, but I'm going to hide this. And this will act as the collider of the player. So I might decrease its size a little because it's too big. I'm just going to say 16 by 16. And although it doesn't really matter, I'm going to decrease the size of the camera helper sprite, which is already invisible. I'm just going to say 20 by 20. And this weapon stuff that I added previously is actually going to stay as well, but this will be only replaced by a little chevron or something, so an arrow. So the player can look which way they are shooting, but the projectiles will probably spawn from the player because the projectiles that I pre-selected yesterday, I dug around each and looked for a few sprites. So the projectiles are mostly like big magic balls of fire and stuff like this. Let me just show you. I think it was either this or, yeah, no, this one. I am going to link all the assets under the games page at one point. Right now I just downloaded a bunch of them, put them in the assets directory in the games project folder, but I'm going to make sure that all credits are actually visible under the game because I'm using free assets. Some of them are free to use for commercial use as well. Some of them are not. For example, these projectiles, if I remember correctly, are only available for non-commercial use, but here we are. I mean, I'm not going to turn this game into anything more serious, and certainly I'm not going to ask people to pay money for it. So yeah, and I really like these little projectiles. They look freaking cool, and some of them are smaller, some of them are bigger, so I can have like different weapons firing different looking projectiles. And the nice thing about these assets that they come in different colors as well. So if I just flip through them, as you can see, I can use a bunch of different colors for the different projectiles as well, so it looks a bit more varied. Okay, it's asset import time, I guess. So I think I'm going to start with the player, and for the player I thought that I use this little Pixel Dudes Maker generator app, or web app to be precise. So this is also made by 0x72, and everything that you generate with this tool are also essentially public domain, if I remember correctly. So yeah, you can use them in your games without worrying about the licensing. And the nice thing about this is actually, I'm just going to quickly export this zip. I think I forgot that. Good. So this generator stuff works like $1,000,000. It has a bunch of different variations of the same sprite. There are different bases, different heads, faces, stuff like this. And you can also choose between a bunch of palettes. I chose this one because it's a classic. And you can also just do something like pressing randomize. So it will be completely randomly selected, all of these parts, which is neat. So I can probably generate some of the enemies with this. Although, if I go back to the original one, as you can see, these tile sets actually include some character sprites as well. So maybe some of these will turn into enemies. Some of them are smaller, some of them are bigger. This is terrifying, but super funny as well. I think a bunch of people use these assets all the time in gems, especially, but hey, I don't have the skills to draw anything, so I'm just going to go ahead and nick those too. So for the player, I made this little character with the tool that I showed you earlier. So this will be the default player character. This is the idle animation, and the one below this is the running animation. And this is all that I need. I'm just going to mirror this accordingly to the player's movement direction, and that's about it. So the player is going to probably spawn the projectile somewhere here, and the player will be able to wear many hats, but only one at the same time because of the restriction of the gem. So I generated another version of the same character, but with a different hat. I think I'm just going to cut this part and probably turn it into a different sprite, so I can attach different hats onto the original sprite. And also there's this one. Maybe I should change the color of the hats as well later. And also this little fez I like. And also I have another pack of hat assets, but I didn't really check them if they match the resolution, although at first sight I think they do. Let me just show you a couple. I wonder if there is one. Yeah, this is the one that I was looking for, which has all of the hats. So these are mostly helmets, but hey, same thing. So maybe some of these will make it into the game as well. We'll see. I'm just going to add 1 or 2 hats at first, and if I have the time, I might add some more during the weekend. That's the plan. Okay, I'm going to get started, I think. So right now, the player's sprite is visible, but I'm going to turn that off in a second. Although I might keep it for a bit so I can verify the direction of the sprite, because right now if I'm moving to the right, then this little black bar is looking at the right. If I'm moving to the left, then it faces the left. And I'm going to use this angle to determine whether the player's actual graphics should be flipped or not. So let's just start with that. Also, I'm going to lock the floors layer so I don't accidentally select the floors. Right, I am going to add the new sprite. Just like this, and I'm going to say BB player, which is short for billboard. Now, billboards are usually for games that are either 3D or 2.5D, but I just probably call the player graphics object this. Let me just try. Oh no, there it is. Okay. The construct auto-saving prompt came up, so yeah. What I'm going to do is double click this, the animation editor will start up, and I am going to drag the player PNG that I saved from the web app that I showed you earlier, and Construct is going to ask me whether it should import from files or treat it as a sprite strip, and this is the option that I want. Now, this sprite strip thing is usually working all right, although not every time. As you can see, there are 4 columns and 3 rows of sprites in this one PNG file. So if I go right here, I'll just have to specify how many horizontal and vertical cells or rows and columns are there in this file, because for some reason Construct didn't automatically detect it, but this is all right. So horizontal cells are, there are 3 horizontal ones and 4 vertical ones, I guess. And the direction is horizontal, so the animation will be imported in this order. 1, 2, 3, 4, these are empty, then 5, 6, 7, 8, and stuff like this, hopefully. Let me just try that. Right. Not exactly. I think I might have confused the 2 directions. Let me just try again. I said 3 and 4 or 4 and 3? Okay, something's a bit off still. Although this might have to do with the zoom, or maybe not. No, sorry. Please hold. Okay, now we're clicking. Yeah, I think I did the wrong values twice. So right now this is the correct crop essentially. So this little number, which is the first frame of the animation, is this one. I don't think I'm going to need this because this is just for the static version, and it's essentially the same as this one. So if I go back to construct, I can just delete the first 4 frames. And this, and this is actually, whoops, these 4 frames. So this is the idle animation. When the player is standing in the same spot and not moving, I'm going to use this. And for the other 4, this is the running animation. And the player is also facing to the right, which is nice, because in construct, the angle of movement is by default 0, which means that something is going to the right. So if I want to use the movement angle to flip the sprite, I will just have to check if the movement angle is actually between 90 and 270 degrees. And if it is, then it means that the sprite will have to be flipped because the player is going on the left. But I'm going to show that a bit later. So I have this first animation. I'm going to name it idle, and I'm going to duplicate it. And from the idle animation, I'm going to remove the last 4 frames. And for the other animation, which I'm going to say name running, I'm going to remove the first 4 frames. So right now, if I turn on looping and click the preview button, then as you can see, there's a little animation and it's looping infinitely. The speed is simply FPS, so frames per second. Right now it's 5, it's a bit slow. I'm going to bump it up to 12. It looks all right. Maybe it's a little fast. I don't know. Let's just see if, oops, if 10 is a little better. I think that's okay. And for the idle animation, I'm also going to specify 10. So it's essentially the same. Oh, I forgot to turn on looping. Okay. Now, if I want to be super efficient, which I usually don't because this is construct and it's not about efficiency all the time, as you can see, the second and the 4th frames are essentially the same. So I could just remove the 4th frame. And for the idle animation, I could say ping pong, which means that the frames will be played like 0, 1, 2, because it's 0 indexed. So first frame, second frame, third frame, then second frame again, and then it goes back to the first frame and starts the animation again. So it looks exactly the same, but there's only 3 frames of animation. I think the running one is actually different, however, yeah. All frames are completely different, so I can do the same thing here, but yeah, this is just something that you might want to do at one point. Okay, so the player's sprite looks okay. I'm going to save this, but also I see a little kind of an issue, not a big one, but I think I might want to change the origin of this sprite a little, although I really might not, because I'm going to make sure that this sprite is actually attached to this one as a child. I'm just going to do that first. I'm going to select the sprite first that I want to be the child and keep pressing Control or Shift, and select the other sprite which I want to be the parent. I'm going to then right click it and say add selection to hierarchy. So this is now linked to the other one, and I'm not going to move it over there, not right now. I'm just going to leave it here at this point. And also I'm going to check which properties are synchronized between the two, because this is what hierarchy is all about. You want something, if you want the child to move to the position of the parent, for example, then you just check X, Y, and possibly the Z elevation, so they will be synchronized. And transform width and height is probably not necessary. I don't think I'm going to resize the player at any one point. And transform angle is definitely not necessary because I don't want this to rotate. I will probably just use an action to flip it. And also, I think I'm going to disable the width and height synchronization, because flipping a sprite or mirroring a sprite, because mirroring is the horizontal flip, sorry, not a great terminology, and in Construct, flipping is actually when you vertically flip something. So yeah, there's that. And it actually works by making the width of the sprite, for example, the mirroring makes the width of the sprite the same width but negative. So if I just, for example, for this sprite, I enter -16 instead of 16, then boom, the sprite is actually mirrored. And this is simply because I can do this. So as you can see, this is what happens in the background. So I'm just going to undo this. And right now I'm also going to make sure that, yeah, opacity, visibility, I don't think I want to synchronize either. I'm just going to run the game to see if the movement is working correctly. Yeah. So this is nice. If I move to the right or the left, then the little player sprite is also moving along with the, the player billboard sprite is also moving along with the player. Now, if I do something like this, this should be how the game should actually work. And I can also use the actual player object as a collider. So for example, when I'm detecting if my player is getting hit by an enemy or an enemy projectile, then I can just detect if this white circle is getting overlapped by an enemy projectile or an enemy, and then make the hit. So I think this is all right. I'm also going to make sure that this flipping thing is working. So in the player's tick custom action, I think I'm going to add another action that flips the sprite according to the player object's current angle, which is changing as the player is moving the controller or the keyboard. I mean, not moving the keyboard, but moving the player object with the keyboard input or the gamepad input. So I just need to add a little check that checks the angle. And let me just see if it's possible to, yeah, this is all right. So under players, I can say something like is between angles or is within angle. Either time is fine. I'm going to use is between angles, I think. So the first angle is, I'm going to say -90, which is essentially the same as specifying 270, which means the up direction. And the second angle, I'm going to set it to 90. So this means that the player is moving to the right. And I'm also going to press X, which creates a little else condition and event. So I can just do something like BB player set flipped, and I'm going to say not flipped for this one. And I'm going to copy this and make it flipped for this one. Now let's see if this works or not. Kind of. I once again confused flip with mirrored. Mirrored is what I was looking for. I always confuse those two. So mirroring is the horizontal flip and flipping is the vertical flip. So that's what I need. Usually I'm using the keyboard to do stuff in Construct event sheets. And I suggest everyone who is looking into Construct development to do the same. There are just a handful of shortcuts in the official documentation, and they are super handy. So right now, if I move the player to the right with the keyboard by pressing D, then it's not flipped. And if I move to the left, then the sprite is flipped. There's a little bit of an issue, I think. Yeah, I'm just going to change things a little, because if I move up, for example, after moving to the left, then it flips the player back. Let me just move to the left, and then I'm going to move up. Okay, now it doesn't do it, all right. Oh yeah, this is the other. So if I move to the right and then move up, then the player is flipped back. So I'm just going to say if the angle is between -89 and 89, I'm going to do the not mirrored thing, and I'm going to replace this else part with something that is similar but is on the other half. So if the second angle is between 91 and I'm just going to say 269, I think this should work, but it doesn't. Oh yeah, the first angle should be the smaller one, I guess. Okay, so I move to the left, then up and down, and the flipping is staying the same. Now I move to the right, then down and up, and it still stays the same. Nice. I'm going to check the controller stuff as well. If my controller is awake, and it's not. 1 second. I might have to remove the receiver. It's a wireless controller. Yeah, Windows is not seeing it. Back. That's confusing. Which part? Sorry, I didn't check chat in time. Which part is confusing, Flavius? The angles and stuff, or something else, or the flipping? Because that is proper confusing. I usually have a little mnemonic in my head, because you, for example, if you say it flipped the car, then it means that the car is on top of it. So this is how I try to remember that flipping is actually the vertical mirroring, you know. And mirrored is, it doesn't make any sense, but you know, it's the other one, so it should be the horizontal one. This is how I try to remember it, but as you can see, I still don't really remember it. I mean, not every time anyway. Okay, so controller stuff looks okay. If I'm mostly going up but giving it a little left and right nudge, then it looks like the player is correctly flipping, so this is nice. Okay. Yeah, the flip and the mirror, exactly. Yeah, it's freaking weird. I don't know why didn't they just go with something like horizontal flip and vertical flip or mirror or whatever, but only one of them and not mix up the two. Yeah. One of the slight weird things about Construct. Okay, so this is all right, I guess. Also, I think I might want to update this weapon sprite, and I'm just going to quickly draw something at first, because I think I forgot to reselect a little chevron sprite. Although, now that I think about it, I downloaded some UI stuff right here, and this might have some chevrons in it, so I'm going to check this. Okay, this is pretty good, although it might be a little big. Also not bad, these arrows. Okay, I think I'm going to try to, and this is cool as well. Although I like the chevron shape a little better than the arrows, but okay, one of those. I'm going to try to check if the chevron is too big, because this is pretty good, I think, or maybe this one. I don't know which one should I. How does the floor look again? Okay, so I think I want to go with this one at first. I'm just going to import this. So I'm going to close this. So I am going to drag the whole freaking thing here. It just replaces the whole drawing, the animation. And I'm just going to roughly cut this using this internal tool. And for some reason, once again, a little bit of Construct weirdness. If you press crop, then it automatically tries to do the same thing as you would do in Photoshop, that's image and trim, but it keeps 1 pixel transparent background for some reason. So yeah, if you don't want that, then you can just select this part and then press this again. And this, if you have a selection and press this, then it will just crop to the selection. And if you don't, for example, if I press it now, then it adds a little 1 pixel transparent border, whatever. Okay, whoops. One thing that I probably didn't fix is the origin of the sprite. So this I'm going to set to middle, although maybe it would be better to, once again, just like with the barrel or the weapon sprite that I had, to move the origin to the left a little. So this will distance the sprite from the player. And the barrel image point we are not going to need anyway, because the projectiles will not come from this sprite, not anymore. So I'm just going to delete this. And right now, let's just see how it looks. Okay, it's not great, but it's not totally bad either. So yeah, what I don't really like is that things are a little small. I think I might want to change the viewport size for this game, but halving it is probably not a good idea, because then it would be too big. Let me just check first. Maybe something in the middle, which might be a little weird, but yeah. Right. Also, I'm going to check this full screen quality high, which means that the scaling will be a little smoother, so the pixels don't really jump around. Although you do lose the pixel perfectness, but I was never really after that, so this looks fine, I think, for now anyway, but I might replace this sprite later. Also, I think I'm going to move the origin point a little more to the left, so it's a little further from the player, but that's okay. Okay, so I think the resolution was all right this way. Maybe it's a little too close now. Oh yeah. Let's just try something in between. So this I'm going to change to 480, and this I'm going to change to 270. And now we are not on the same resolution as Captain Onosa. Sorry about that. Unless you changed it as well. Yeah, I think this is all right. This looks okay. If I change to full screen, then my laptop is screaming because, yeah, it's not exactly fit for this sort of stuff. But yeah, it's running fine for now. Although I'm pretty sure that if I'm going to add some enemies and other stuff, then it's going to lag in full screen mode, because I'm using quite a big resolution on this ultra wide monitor that I'm using at this point. Okay, I'm going to save that and move on. Cool. Player we already have. This was opened for some reason as well. Okay, projectiles. I think I might want to add the projectiles, so we replace everything that is right now programmer art. So let's just go to projectile, and I think I will probably do something like adding multiple animations for the different projectiles, and when I'm firing, then I'm just going to switch to the right one. So instead of this beautiful white rectangle, I'm going to find something that is kind of small, but not too small. And also I might want to have a different color, although the orange one's pretty good looking. It's like fire or something. I think this is pretty good. For example, I'm just going to go with the green one for some reason. It doesn't really matter, because I haven't thought of the whole hat situation and which hat should have which projectile, but I'm just going to use this one at first. So just find the right one. And it's, oh, not the right folder. These are explosions. Okay, these are the projectiles. Now, I'm not quite sure if these are on a consistent grid and how big the grid it is, but I'm going to try something quickly, because I will need a bunch of projectiles from this file anyway. So there's a little trick that I sometimes do. I create a new tile map, insert it, and drag this onto the tile map animation. So now if I turn on the grid, for example, a 16 by 16 grid, I can just, yep, nice. So this whole sprite sheet is on a 16 by 16 grid, which is neat, because this is what I want to have right here. And I'm not even going to have an instance of this on the layout, because I don't really need it. But if I select it, oh crap, yeah, I will need it, because I can only see the tile map editor, or the tile map, what is this part called? Bar. Yes, tilemap bar, if I have an instance selected, so yeah. But I'm not going to use this anyway. I just temporarily add this to the layout. So I can do something like double clicking. Oops, sorry. So I forgot to set the size for the tilemap object. So now it's 16 by 16. And if I zoom in a little, then as you can see, if I hover the mouse cursor over the stuff, then only one frame is selected or one tile. So I'm just going to lazily do something like copy. And for the projectile, I'm going to paste it and say enlarge canvas. I'm not going to need this white part. I'm just going to delete it. If I can. Are we on the grid or something? I don't think we are. Okay. Some weirdness is going on. Please hold once again. Okay, I'm just going to... Not sure why this is happening, but okay. So I deleted this part. And I'm just going to copy the other frames as well. There's probably a better way to do this, but I don't really care at this point. I'm just going to copy all 4 frames. It's not that much, so I'm going to duplicate this, delete it, and copy it. Okay. For the rest of the projectiles, I might do something else because this looks horrible. Can I control V here? No, I cannot. I think I missed the copy. Control A, Control C. And now Control V. Okay, I'm just going to do something else. I am going to take a different direction and open the whole sprite sheet right here. I'm going to turn on the grid, which is 16 by 16. Oh yeah, this will be much easier. I don't know why I didn't do this the first time. Sorry about that. So I'm just going to select this part. This is the project that I want. I'm going to crop it. And I can probably save it and then re-import it to the sprite sheet, but since it's only 4 frames, I'm just going to duplicate it a couple of times. And I can just select the first part. I mean, for this frame, select the first part and crop it. And for this one, I'm also going to do the same, but with the second frame. This is the third one. And this is the fourth. Okay. It's a little weird because the colors are not the same, but whatever. What the heck is this? Okay, let me just check if the animation looks all right or not. I'm going to bump up the speed once again to 10 frames per second. Yeah, the origin is wrong, but I'm going to quickly fix that. I'm going to say origin middle, and I'm going to also say apply to whole animation. So the origin is in the middle for all frames. This frame, I think yeah, there's a little misplay. I added another column of sprites, so now it should be recentered, the first one. And if I play it right now, okay, it looks like that. I think this is okay. I don't know if I want to loop the animation, if it's meant to be looped anyway, but I think it is. I'm just going to leave it like this. And I think I'm going to get rid of this temporary tilemap stuff anyway. So I'm just going to run the game and check chat as well, sorry. So Flavius says, I found a way to decide what to work on next. I put everything in a spinning wheel. This little website, right? I think I saw it at one of the other streamers. And what is the last on the wheel? that is what I have to do for the game. Good decision. I mean, this is something to counter decision fatigue, as some might say. But also, it kind of reminds me of something that was in a TV series or something, that when you can decide between two things, then you should flip a coin, the classic one. But if you don't like the outcome of the coin, then you just do the other thing. This also works. But if you have a bunch of things, then yeah, you're gonna need a dice or something, or possibly this website with this spinner. Neat. The important thing is that you do something, that you don't get stuck deciding between the options. Yeah, I know a bit about decision fatigue anyway, and procrastination and things like that. That's just how it goes around these parts. Okay, so one projectile is done. I'm going to run the game because I think I forgot to, and check if it looks all right. No firing is happening. What? Did I accidentally? No. Okay. This is where the spawning happens. Okay, although I did want to change the spawn stuff so the player is actually spawning. Spawn another object and spawn the projectile. And the layer should be, and this is, oh yeah, this might be where we went wrong. I mentioned that I want to create some macros for the layers, and I did not do that. So I'm just going to rectify this mistake. I'm going to go to vMacros, which is an event sheet that only has some global constants defined. And this is where I usually alphabetically categorize different macros. In this case, I'm going to keep the layer main macro, which just says main, and this is also corresponding to the name of the layer. So I'm going to create two more macros, one for walls and one for floors. Okay, and now I think I'm just going to search for layer in the whole project to see where I'm referencing layers, if I'm even referencing one. Yeah, the problem is that player also contains the word layer. Suboptimal. But then again, I'm just going to look for spawn stuff. So I'm going to move this right here. This is a neat thing in Construct. You can just move these bars around and attach them to different parts of the screen. So this one is actually, yeah, this was disabled, but actually I'm going to do exactly that. So I might just, yeah, I'm going to get rid of this, but yeah, or get rid of the one that I just made and re-enable this. I don't think I'm going to need this or this, because the player also has an angle, the little placeholder stuff that I'm still showing in the game visualizes that. So the movement angle is actually taken when the player is spawning the projectile, and the projectile will start moving in the same direction as the player's facing. So this should be fine. I'm going to disable this because I don't want the weapon, which I'm incidentally going to rename because this is not a weapon anymore. This is just an aim helper thing. Just a little chevron that shows the direction of the attack. So the player will spawn the projectile, and on layer main. Done. And I'm going to get rid of that. And I think this is all. I'm just going to check if no, there are no spawning happening anywhere else, so no layers are referenced, hopefully. I'm just going to give it a quick save and also check chat. Oh yeah, the procrastination is super strong. You procrastinated a lot this week, but today you actually made something with your game, which you mentioned yesterday that you don't have work, so you have a bunch of time to do that. Crap, the shooting is still not working. What's happening? So yeah, this is This sounds a little better than my case, actually. I'm just going to check if the projectile is actually somewhere on this. Oh, okay, I see the problem. So when I change the actual animation or the sprite of the projectile, then its size changed as well. So it's a little small. So it was actually spawning, but it's so small that it's essentially invisible. So I'm just going to restore the original size of this. Right now it's a 16 by 16 sprite, although it really doesn't have to be, because all this transparent part could be cut out, but I'm not going to bother about this. I'm just going to change the size to 16 by 16, and if I run the game now, hopefully it should work and show up. Yep, neat. Although the problem is that, yeah, this is not what we want, because now the movement angle is used instead of the shooting angle, so we actually need the other action that sets the projectile's angle. So projectile set angle, and I'm going to say players.shooting angle. This should fix it. Yep. So wherever I point the little chevron, the player is shooting the projectiles. And yeah. I'm having second thoughts, because right now the middle of the player is spawning the projectiles and it looks bad. I might want to do a little trick and actually replace the player's object in this action and indeed say that aim helper should be the source of the projectile. But for aim helper, it's funny because we removed this image point, but actually projectile spawn point is actually a little more, or just projectile. No, this is fine. I'm going to re-add this image point and move it somewhere here, for example. And I think I have a macro for this as well. Yeah. I'm just going to rename that. And I'm going to reference that. So where was I? Oh yeah, here. So when the aim helper sprite is spawning the projectile, the image point should be this one. So it's actually not the player that is spawning the projectile. I think this looks better. Maybe I will just move it a little closer to the player. So this just needs to be a little to the left, somewhere here. Let's just check. Flavius also said, today I didn't go to work, so I had time to work on it. Exactly, but some days that when I don't have to work, I still procrastinate and don't do game dev. Although nowadays it's better, a little better. But yeah, my efficiency is still a little lackluster. Okay, so the projectile is probably not colliding with the wall right now, I think, because the projectile object has the bullet behavior. Let me just go here. So here's our single instance of the projectile sprite, and bullets are able to bounce off solids, but I'm just going to check this and show you what happens. It's quite funny. So the wall object has this solid behavior. So right now if I shoot a projectile, then it will bounce off the wall. I mean, it doesn't really look like it's bouncing off the wall, but this is due to the fact that, for one thing, it's moving really quickly, and the other fact is that the hitbox of the projectile is pretty bad. I'm just gonna turn on the grid, but change it to a little 1x1 grid, and I'm gonna fix that. So the projectile's hitbox should be something like this, I guess. Maybe something like this. And hitboxes can also change between frames. So if I go to other frames, then the same hitbox, the original one, shows up. So I'm just going to say apply to whole animation on this hitbox, and now the whole animation has the same hitbox. So it should look a little better. Yeah, it's a bit better, I think. But of course I don't really want that, so I don't want the projectiles to bounce around. I just want them to get wrecked every time they hit a wall. So I'm going to disable bounce of solids, and I'm also going to create a little event that gets rid of the projectiles. Now, for this, I usually go to the eCollisions event sheet, which is completely empty. This is why I had the little underscore at the beginning of its name. But now I'm going to create an event. And the event should say that if a projectile collides with a wall, then it should get destroyed. So projectile collision with another object. And the other object is walls. So, oops, sorry, this is only half of it. So this is the condition. This says that if the projectile hits a wall, then what should happen? Of course, the projectile should get destroyed. So projectile and destroy. I'm going to move this around a little so it's more readable. Ooh, also, I think I forgot to zoom in, and text is quite small on the stream. Let me just do that. Good. Okay, I'm going to check this. So right now, if I shoot at the wall, then the projectiles should get destroyed. We don't see them anymore. I think this is all right. But to make sure, and also because I just usually do this, I add a little development debug overlay thing to the game, so I can see how many frames do I get per second, how much CPU and GPU are we taking over with the game, and also the object count is quite important, because sometimes if there are a lot of objects, then your game can lag. So what I usually do is to create another layer called UI, which stands for user interface. For this layer, I'm going to turn off parallax. This is important because I want this layer to be always visible. So if the camera moves around, I want essentially this layer to be stuck on the camera. So wherever the camera moves, this layer stays with the camera. And you can achieve this by setting parallax to 0 by 0, which means that it won't move around. So this little dashed part, I don't know if it's really visible or not, is essentially the area that you can use to place objects on the UI layer, so they will show up. If I move something off of it, so a little further outside this dashed area, then it won't be visible because there's no parallax going on. So I'm just going to create a folder under objects and store everything that is related to the user interface in this folder. And under this folder, I'm also going to create a little sprite font object, or I could also do a little text object, which is just a true type or open type font deal. But usually for performance purposes, I go with the sprite font, which has downsides, of course, but performance is an upside in it. I just rename it to UI text SF, which reminds me that it's actually a sprite font. And I'm going to create an instance of this on the UI layer by dragging it right here. It looks like crap, but I'm going to rectify that in a moment as well. Just gonna turn off the walls so I see the actual bounds of the layout. So right now, this is the 0, 0 position. I'm just going to make sure that it's a little padded. For some reason, Construct defaults to this ugly blue color. When you create a new sprite font, I'm going to set it to white. And also I'm going to change the scale of this to 50% because it's too big. And I'm just going to change the size of the object, the bounding box, to something bigger. Although I'm probably not going to write so much text in this object, but just to be safe, this is fine. And this is also for development purposes only. So I'm just going to create an instance variable, and this is something that I do with everything that is UI related. So if I have multiple text objects, I just tend to use the same object type and distinguish between them using a variable. And this is how I do it. I create an instance variable of this sprite font object. I'm naming it role, and it's going to be a string. So I can just put something like dev info, like development information, in it. And also I'm going to create a matching macro, which I'm just going to yoink from my templates group. And I'm going to name it accordingly. Dev info should be in its name, and also it should be the value because this should match this. And now there's this FUI function, event sheet, but it's only going to hold functions because it's prefixed with F. And I usually just create a function called update UI. And this update UI function will be called at every tick for now, because I do want this little text display to be always accurate. So every tick I'm going to update its text content. So with the new event, I'm going to select the right instance of the UI text SF object by saying compare instance variable and say role and role devinfo. So this just, if I have multiple instances of the same object, I just select the one that has the devinfo role in it. And I want to set the contents of this by specifying the set text actions actual value. And this will be whatever I put here will just end up in the text object. So right now, I think I mentioned, yeah, I'm going to say something like the build version number should show up because it's useful to see which version is up on itch, for example. So the version that I specify for the project should be in this text stuff. Then the FPS, the CPU and GPU percentage should be there, and also the object count. So this is a lot. So I will just probably use the, what's it called again? String sub system expression, which can do a little sprint, if I'm remembering correctly, type of deal. So you can have like a string which has little magic markers in it, which will get substituted to different values that you specify as parameters. Let me just show you, because I'm horrible at explaining this sort of stuff. So I'm just going to make a string, say something like build, and then use this character, which I don't remember the name of, and 0, and then do something like this much FPS, this much CPU, and this much GPU, and this many objects. So the string sub system expression can have multiple, essentially infinite parameters. And the first parameter is the string that you have the little template string specified, and then the rest of the parameters should be the values that you want the string sub to substitute in the place of this and this and this and so on. So I'm just going to say project version. Then I'm going to say FPS. These are all system expressions. Then I'm going to say CPU utilization, but this is between 0 and 1. So I'm going to multiply it by 100, and also I'm going to round it. Then do essentially the same for the GPU. I'm just going to yoink this and change C to G, and that's it. And then the next one is object count, which is also a system expression that just tells you how many object instances are there in the game at this point. Right. Let's check if it works. Yeah, it should, but I didn't call this update UI function, so I'm just going to once again change that. So right now this every tick event is in the level event sheet, and this is not good practice. I mean, not according to me. I have this special little weirdly named event sheet called eCycles, and this is where I put the every tick event at all times in my games. So eCycles should only hold events that either say every tick, or there's also a system expression called every X seconds. If you want something to happen at a regular interval and you don't want to use timers, then you could also use this. And also if I maybe want to do something like on start of layout, which runs only once when you start the layout, then I also put this in the eCycles event sheet. But right now I don't. So I'm just going to add the function called update UI right here. So it's called every tick, every frame. Let me just run the game again. Neat. So it looks bad because the default font is kind of ugly and it has no spacing data. I think I might fix that later. So it says build 5. This is the version that I specified right here. Then it says 49 FPS. My display is actually 50 Hertz, so it shouldn't go above 50 at this point because I have vertical syncing turned on for the project. And also this little CPU stuff should work fine. These are in percent definitely, but the percent sign is not displaying, but because I don't think it's in the default font. So yeah. GPU is, yeah, also working, and there are 7 objects. And if I start firing bullets, as you can see, the object count is kind of growing a little. But if I stop firing it, then eventually it will go back to 7. Because the projectiles at one point are going to get destroyed because the level has walls all around it. But just to be safe, I'm also going to add the little garbage collection mechanism and make sure that no projectiles can leave the layout. For the projectile object type, and I can just add the behavior called destroy outside layout. If you add this behavior to anything, then it will automatically get destroyed and you don't have to specify an event and a destroy action. It will just get killed when it's outside the layout. And since our level looks like this and there are a bunch of walls around it, it really shouldn't happen because the wall should collide with the projectile. But I don't know, in some edge cases, or if the projectile is moving really fast, then it's quite possible that it will jump over the wall because the collision checks are happening at every frame. And if, for example, a projectile has a speed of, I don't know, 5,000, which is not realistic in this game, but, you know, it could happen in other games, then it's quite possible that the projectile's position is checked. For example, if I shoot from here, then it's checked right here, and then it's moving 5,000 pixels. So it's long after the wall, so it won't get destroyed. So I just tend to do that little behavior trick. So the projectile is not in the infinite realm of nothingness. Oof, that was, yeah, that was also almost a Nowhere or maybe a Clown Core track title, possibly. Sorry, streamer brain is kicking in, I think, but yeah. So I just wanted to quickly rectify this ugly font situation. And also I am going to show you a little tool that I use. I usually use Firefox, and I have a little bookmark for this, but I'm just going to sprite font generator construct 3. Also I can plug my little blog, because I do have a little blog, and I have the tools link somewhere here, I think. Yeah. This is the one. Font to sprite font converter. It's a really nice tool that you can just give any font, for example, something from Google Fonts, and this font is perfect for this. This is the Prestar 2P font that I use in a bunch of games because I'm lazy. And you can just give it a bunch of characters that you want to end up in the font sprite sheet. I'm just going to make sure that, yeah, %sign is right here. So this is nice. And I'm going to change the font size to something a little smaller. No, this is fine, I think. I'm just going to click download bitmap font. And now it's generating this little sprite sheet. And I'm just going to save it right here in the assets folder. So now if I go back here and say edit on the sprite font. So this is the original one, the default one that Construct gives you. And as you can see, there's no %sign in it for some reason. But I can just replace that with the one that I just generated by dragging it and dropping it right here. Oof. Why does it look like this? Something is, yeah, maybe Chrome is giving me some bad time. Anti-aliasing is turned off actually, but still there's some blurriness happening for some reason. Firefox doesn't do this, so I'm just going to quickly switch over to Firefox, but I'm also going to do this on this screen, so just 1 second and I will be back. And I am back. And indeed, for some reason, Firefox works fine and Chromium doesn't. This is the one that I exported with Firefox. I've overwritten the file, so yeah, this is sharp and the other one wasn't. I don't know why. But I vaguely remember reading something about this, that you can't really turn on font smoothing in Chromium for this sort of thing. I don't know. I don't really care. I don't really use Chromium anyway, except for running construct because of performance reasons. Unfortunately, Firefox does have a little problem running JavaScript intensive stuff, and also I'm guessing that the GPU acceleration is not as good in Firefox as in Chrome. So okay, now I imported the little sprite sheet, the text sprite sheet. Let me just show you because I closed it too quickly. Sorry if I do things kind of fast at times. Captain Onosa, that's pretty cool. Which part? Sorry, I don't really read chat when I'm in the flow. The sprite font thing, possibly. Hopefully. So yeah, this is the new font, the Prestart 2P font from Google Fonts, but there's some garbling going on, and for good reason, because when I exported the font, I could actually set some settings here, like the grid's width and height. So 30 by 30 pixels should be specified right here. Now it's better. And also the character set is not the same as this, so I'm just going to copy this and paste it right here. And also, the nice thing about this tool is that you can actually export the spacing data. So if you use a monospace font, then you can still use the spacing data if you don't want the font to actually display monospace. For example, this is a lot, what's the word? So this is not as thick as M, for example. So this takes up like, I don't know, 20 pixels, and this takes up like 10 or something. And the export and construct 3 bit does a little JSON data export thing. So in spacing data, I can just copy this. And as you can see, this is essentially a JSON array, which specifies how many pixels are the widths of which characters. That's it. So if I remove this and say something like this, as you can see, there's a big gap between the colon sign and the T. But if I copy the spacing data, and if it's working, but it doesn't seem like it is, what the heck? This might be off then. Once again, I'm not using Firefox to do this, but I would have thought that this is also not related to the browser. Never mind, I'm just going to skip that. But yeah, spacing data should fix this sort of thing, but right now it doesn't. Never mind. Since this is only for development purposes, this whole text object, I don't think I'm going to bother. Okay, so the text size is a little big, so I'm just going to change the scale to 25%. Okay, now it's a little better. Good. I don't know why this part is not working. It's usually working, but whatever. Okay, so we have a little display. That's nice. That was a detour anyway. I am going to check my to-do list, because although I'm pretty sure what I'm going to implement next, and this is going to be enemies, I will also make sure that nothing is amiss. So add assets and basic level design. Oh yeah, level design, this part I haven't done yet. Arena style with some walls. I'm going to add a little, add some walls, and then I'm going to add some enemies. Okay, I'm just going to do the lazy thing and just throw some random walls at first. And possibly off stream, I will actually try to come up with a proper arena type level design. But I don't really like level design, and I also suck at it, so I'm not going to bore you with the this sort of thing on stream. So I'm going to need the walls layer, so I will just unlock it and select the walls object, which is a tile map. I will switch to the tile map bar. And also I would just like to bring their attention to this bit. So this tile map thing is actually a little bit weird at first sight. The tiles are 16 pixels wide and 32 pixels long. So the height is 32 pixels. If I just double click one, then as you can see, this is what one tile looks like. And this is because of this whole top-down stuff. And also the collision shape of this is not covering the whole sprite, because I don't want the player, for example, to stop right here. I want them to be able to overlap this part of the wall. So for example, right here, I think I showed this part at the beginning of the stream when I imported this layout, or this object to be more precise. But yeah, and this little rectangular shape around these sprites is actually the collision shape, or the hitbox. Collision polygon to be exact. Yeah, so I'm just going to switch to the brush 1, which is the 47 type, I mean. And I'm just going to draw some, whoops, something is amiss. I think there might be a little issue with the, yeah, this is not correct, which is weird because I copied it from the other project, but this didn't make it for some reason. God damn it. I'm just going to try it again, I think. 1 second, please hold. So dungeon tiles, this was the project that I was using to test out the whole auto tiling brush thing. Oh yeah, the kerning, yeah. That's the right expression, yes. Captain Anosa, you are absolutely right. But I don't know why it's not working at this point, because previously I mean, I might not have used this font, so it might be something to do with this specific font, but it worked fine. So, okay, right here I have this walls object. I'm just going to copy it once again and remove this one. It's weird because, for example, the collision shapes are correct, but the brush is not. Maybe this is a bug in Construct. I have a hunch. Or maybe I just messed something up, I don't know. So I pasted this. Walls. Okay, the sprite looks fine. I'm just going to drop one instance of it on the walls layer, something like this. And just check the sprite situation, I mean the brush situation. So brush 1 should be, but I don't think it is. Yeah. Yeah, this looks like a bug, unfortunately. Pretty bad, because the tile width also didn't make it, but the collision shapes did. What? This is kind of weird. In this project, I have the 16 by 32 tile width and height specified. And also the brush looks fine, I'm guessing, right here. So if I switch to this, as you can see, the correct shapes are showing up here. Now the question is, can I do a little export or something? But I really don't think I can. Yeah, this is for loading time map from external tools like TMX and stuff. Well, that's unfortunate, but never mind. This just means that I'm going to remake the shape on stream. I mean the brush, which is educational, I guess, although a bit tedious. So I'm just going to set the tile width and height to the correct one. So now if I hover it with the mouse, then as you can see, the correct tiles actually show up. And I'm going to go to edit brushes and change to, I mean, I don't even have to use brush 1. I could just use brush 0, but change its type to auto 47. And now the fun begins. I will have to click the correct tiles in the tile set for these placeholders. So let's just do that. Yeah, okay, so I think first I'm just going to, okay, so it's all empty. This is nice. So this one, I'm just going to have to look for something that has a little bit of a corner in the bottom right. So it will be, you guys probably spot it quickly, and I'm going to waste time searching for it, but yeah, oh yeah, this is the one. Okay, so in the bottom right corner, there's a bit of wall, and this should correspond to this shape. So I'm just going to click this, and it moves automatically to the next one. So now I have to look for one that has a horizontal wall on the bottom, which is this one. And then I will have to click this. Then I will need to find one that has a wall shape like this. So it's a top left corner wall. Not this one, because it also has a little wall here, but something that looks like this, but empty in the bottom right corner. So this is right here. And also, just to be a little, so it make things easier, I'm just going to do these corners as well. Whoops. Okay. Correct one. This. Okay. Nice. Okay, now I have to look for one that is like this, but also has a little thing in the bottom right corner. So yeah, this is the one. And the mirrored version of this is this. Nice. Next row, I guess. So that's the one. This is this one. Then this one. Then it's like a puzzle, a jigsaw or something. This one, I think. No, sorry. This was a miss. So oh yeah, that's the one. Then 3 corners. I think that's the correct one. And then its mirrored version is right here. Then this part should be this, I think. Okay. Almost halfway done. This is stream gold, I think. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I didn't know about this situation, that I couldn't just copy every property of the object from another project. I really should have made the original one in the same project, but I didn't want to touch it off stream, so that's why I did it like this. Okay, so almost this, but not quite. That's the one. Then once again 3 corners, but not in the bottom left. This one, and this one. Okay, so these might be a little easier. Bam. And then this one, this one. Okay. So something like this, but also with some little stuff in the bottom right corner. I guess this one. I'm also just going to quickly get rid of these. Okay. And go back here. So this is the correct one, I think. Okay, this is the all 4 corner situation, which is somewhere here. I have a hunch that I made an error. Oh no, I didn't. Okay. Okay, let's just finish this shape. Good, and now we only have a little this part which is not complete, so I just have to look for the corners situations. So one is this, then this one, then this one. This, and this, and just one more shape left. God damn it, why can't I find it? Almost this, but not quite. Oh yeah, that's the one. Okay, I'm just going to check if I made any mistakes, because it's still a possibility. So we are on the walls layer, which is correct. Also, I might want to position this a little further. I'm just going to switch to a grid that is actually 16 by 16 and move it like this, or maybe even a little further. And also I'm going to change its size so it covers up more or less the level. Kind of like this. I think it was in the other project. And now it's painting time. I'm just going to select the one brush that we have called brush 0. Also, instantly I'm going to save everything, because if Chromium crashes at this point, I might lose my sanity. Yeah, okay, so this one is selected. What the heck is happening? Okay. Let's just check if it's working. At first, I'm just going to draw some random shapes to see if there are some glitches or anything. But right now, I think it's working fine. It seems to be drawing the correct shapes. You can also do something like use a selection tool, then switch to the eraser, and boom, get rid of this. Okay, so I'm just going to use the auto tiling brush to... I don't know if it's possible to set its size, but I don't think so. So I'm just going to do this. I don't think that's how I wanted to do it, but never mind. Once again, this is streaming gold. Also, it's possible to use external tiling tools, by the way. I mean tile map tools, like Tiled or the LDTK editor, if I remember correctly, because they do tend to export in a certain format called TMX. And you can import stuff by clicking this and import the graphics and the tile sets and tile maps that you export from these external editors. So this might be something that you consider if you really want to make some more complicated levels based on tiles. Because Construct is, I mean, it's really nice of the Skira guys to add the auto tiling brush thing, but the external editors like Tiled have so many freaking useful tools that, yeah, it doesn't really compare. Okay, I'm just going to run the game and check if it's working or not. Okay, it looks all right. I think I might want to make the left wall a little thicker, but it's looking okay, I think. This part is all right, and also I can't go through the walls because the solid behavior is still on. Luckily, this one persisted when I copied it from the other project. I have literally zero idea why the other things like the auto tiling brush and the tile size didn't, but I think I might want to report this, or at first ask the people on the Construct community Discord if they know about this sort of thing, because if they don't, then it really might be a bug in Construct, which I can just report and hopefully it will be fixed in the next release or the next beta. Okay, I think it's time to make another version of this project file, but first I'm just going to export it and pop it on itch, even though it doesn't really... I mean, it's not really a game at this point, but if any of you guys want to check it out, then it's possible to do that in just a few seconds. I'm just going to export the HTML5 version, override the previous zip file, and run the little script, which calls the Butler CLI, which is the official itch CLI. God damn it, my computer is so freaking slow. It's a little behind my keystrokes. Where was I? Get the hat. Okay, this is the correct folder. I really hope the stream is not really lagging or anything. There's nothing usually wrong with the ISP that I use, but this laptop is really not the best hardware to use for streaming and recording, because I'm doing recording at the same time I'm streaming, just to be safe. Okay, so it should be up. I will check this. So this nice little tool is probably done for today. Also check out my little website, gamedev.foddy.be. I'm not Belgian, but I am called Bente, so this is why I opted in for this domain. For this TLD to be exact. So yeah, this is my little blog where I document my game dev journey. I have a bunch of blog posts that I usually procrastinate writing for weeks, sometimes months. For example, the last game I made, Shortfall, is not even on here, but it's been on my to-do list for a month at least. Never mind. So yeah, I have some tips specifically for Construct devs, for example, on project organization. I have some useful links. These are not Construct specific anyway, so even if you're, for example, a Godot dev or Unity or something, you might find some neat links right here, some assets, for example, although these are pretty common asset pages, so you might have encountered them previously, but who knows, you might find something new here. So yeah, gamedev.foddy.be. Check it out if you want. Meanwhile, I'm going to check if the new version is up on itch. It should be, because this little loader is showing up. Okay, let me just check how am I doing time-wise. Okay, so I'm nearing the 2-hour mark. I still have brain cells left, which is neat. Something weird is going on with the projectiles, but I will fix that. But yeah, the new version is up. I didn't test the shooting part, so... Okay, I'm going to close this project once again, because I don't need it anymore. And also, I think I might know what's going on, or not. So the solid behavior is on this. If I run the game, then all my projectiles get destroyed right away. Why is that? I have a hunch that it has something to do with the collision shapes or something. But then again, it might be a different problem. I'm going to enable the show collision polygons view, and yeah, right now I see the problem. So these little squares shouldn't really be here. If I disable the walls layer, then they still show up, and this might have to do something with the fact that I might have... No, sorry. I thought that I might have accidentally added the solid behavior on the floor tiles situation, but... Oh yeah, I know what's wrong. Yeah, this is gone. Because I deleted the wall object, so I just have to replace it. Or say projectiles collision with... God damn it. Mistakes are happening. So collision with the walls, and now the projectile should get destroyed, because since there was no condition in this event, so it looked like this. This is essentially the same as saying every tick projectile destroyed. So essentially every tick, all projectiles got destroyed. Yeah. Now it's better. So the object count is going up when I'm shooting, but if I stop shooting, then it's going back down, since the projectiles are destroyed, hopefully by the walls, but if not by the walls, then by the destroy outside layout behavior that I added on the projectiles object right here. So I'm just going to save it, and since it's bugging my OCD, I'm going to do another export. I don't want the bad version to be up on itch, not for long anyway. And I'm also going to draw some walls and add the first enemy, because I really should have done that last stream, but I didn't. So replace. I'm gonna run the script now. And in a few seconds, I'm going to refresh the page. Okay, now it's loading the new one. Neat. Okay. This is good. I think I can probably get rid of the player's, the actual player object's visibility, because the flipping thing is working fine, so I don't think I need it anymore for debugging purposes. Also for the walls tile map, I think I'm just going to, oh yeah, the layer is locked. Or is it? No, but it wasn't selected. So I'm just going to select these tiles and say disable, or I could just, disable all tile collisions. So this square thing goes away, because Construct can show the collision polygons if you want by changing the layouts show collision polygons property. And it's really helpful to spot collision issues, for example, but I really don't need collisions for the walls tile map anyway. I mean for the floors tile map anyway, so yeah. I'm going to log back the floors layer. I'm going to turn on the walls layer, and as you can see, these show up fine because these walls actually have collisions enabled. And if I scroll the way to the bottom, then as you can see, these ones have as well, but these are a little smaller than the other ones. So yeah, just how I like it. Nice. I'm going to select the walls object, and I'm going to draw some nice walls around this part, so I don't have to move around too much to test things. But essentially, I want the walls to be right here, so I can test enemy AI. I mean, it's going to be a super simple one. I just want the enemies to stand in their spawning location at first. Later I might want them to move around a little, I don't know. But at first I just want them to be idle in the location that they spawned. But when they spot the player, which should happen with using the line of sight behavior, because why not? I want the enemies to move on the player. So yeah, this is mostly it. I'm just going to add some more walls right here, for example. Why not? Okay. Okay, so this is all right. I think I might turn off the show collision polygon stuff, so it looks a little better in the editor. And I'm just going to once again check if everything is working fine. So the player can move around, but they can't really go through the walls. Yeah, I might also want to change the size of this player object, so it's actually a little more snug around the billboard. I'm going to log the walls layer, go to the main one, because this is where I keep the player and all the rest of the accessories. And I'm just going to select the player sprite and change its size. Yeah, the grid snapping is a little big, 16 by 16. I'm just going to set it to 1 by 1. So once again, I'm going to size this. And also, I'm just going to specify it by the number. And I might want to change the position of the billboard to this, because why not? Okay, so I'm going to hide the player object by deselecting the initially visible checkbox right here. And now if I run the game, then I can only see the player and the little, oh no, the chevron is gone. But this is because I transform its visibility to its parent, which is the player object. So, okay, now the chevron is back. So essentially this is how the player should traverse the level. Just, yeah, the chevron is too freaking big, but never mind that. This is fine for now. Okay, good. Let's save it and let's add the first enemy. Posture check, hydrate, stretch, all good points. And holy crap, just the right time I checked chat. Luis, thank you so much for the raid. Once again, you are so freaking nice to raid me of all people on Twitch. Thank you so much. How did the axolotl situation turn up, by the way? Do you have a little, I don't know, preview or link to show me, possibly? Or if it's not too much hassle, I mean, because I would love to see where it ended up. Or did you move on to something else, maybe? Please do tell me what happened on your stream. Meanwhile, I'm just going to create some objects, but I'm all ears. Ooh, and something else happened, I think. Silicon Viper, thank you so much for the follow, much appreciated. By the way, for those of you who might not know, there's a little jam going on these days. It's by the Captain Coder, who I heartily recommend looking up on Twitch. I think I might be able to give a shout out if I'm not too much of a boomer, but I've never done that. So can I just do something like this? Yeah, I don't know how to do a shout out. Never mind that. So, but yeah, you can just look for the Captain Coder on Twitch. So they are doing a little game jam called Learn You a Game Jam 2024, and it's mostly for educational value to have you do something that you usually don't do. I mean, game development wise, and experiment and document your journey, make a blog or a vlog or something. And also, of course, because it's a game jam, they have a little theme called Only One Inventory Slot. And I'm making a little twin stick shooter that looks like this at this point. It's not great, but I still have 4 days left. So yeah, I'm not too stressed. So it's all the assets are canned. I haven't drawn anything because I am really bad at art. But yeah, these are newly imported assets. The previous build only had some programmer art in it, so squares and circles. And you can shoot, but there are no enemies at this point to shoot at. But I'm just in the process of adding some enemies, which will be spawning at random positions on the level, but only off screen. So if you, for example, start right here, then you will probably see some enemies already behind the wall, but the enemies will be there just standing. And if you move a little closer and they spot you, there will be a little line of sight check, then they will start moving on your position and try to kill you, because that's what they do. And you will be able to shoot them. And the big twist and the theme incorporation is actually using hats, because the Captain Coder has a bunch of hats at his home, and when he streams you can actually use the !hat command to make him put on hats, and sometimes he has like a dozen hats on his head. So I thought that I might incorporate this hat business into the game. So when you kill some enemies will drop hats, and you can pick them up. And if you pick up a hat, then it will change the projectile that you're shooting. So essentially the hat is the weapon. And of course you can only hold one, because the restriction of the theme is only one inventory slot. So it's essentially only one hat on your head, and it will actually be displayed on the player's head. Yeah. So yeah, that's about it. The deadline is ever so close, still 4 days away, but yeah. Flavius, a moderator, yeah. Are you offering, possibly? Also, Luis sent a link, which is neat. I'm going to click it because I trust him. Whoa, this is super cool. So, no boxing gloves, but the little red part on the leg is... It's not that derpy anymore, is it? I mean, it's not really smiling. It's, yeah. Okay, it is derpy, but not as derpy as the previous one. I like it. And also the little red thing around the tail. Yeah, this definitely looks something that is more badass than the previous evolution, so it's neat. Are you completely happy with it, or are you like indecisive, or you might want to give it a little review, not review, but you know, another coat of paint later, because I think it's looking totally cool. It's really neat. I'm just going to check chat. Haunt him in multiple ways. Yeah, kind of. I mean, the hats are not the theme, but yeah. I really hope that the captain will appreciate the little hat tip, so to speak. Sorry. Not 100%, but good enough. I think so. Yeah, it's just totally cool. When I move to animation, I might do a second pass. Oh yeah, you showed that part on the stream, that you do it in steps and you don't really like doing the animation part. Yeah. It looks really freaking cool. Love it. Flavius, I really don't want to pressure you into any moderation situation. I just wanted to ask since you brought it up, but I'm totally freaking noob at this. I'm not even affiliate, and as you seen previously, I don't even know how to give a shout out, but I'm going to look that up after the stream because it's ridiculous that I don't know how to do that. But yeah, if you ever want to be a moderator on this channel, I would be really happy to have you, but there is no like pressure to that you have to show up every time or anything, although you tend to do. But this is just a happy coincidence, I guess. Right. Okay, so soon I might continue, but just check chat one more time. You like doing the animation, but you don't like cleaning up the animation. All right. Okay. Yeah. Cleaning up anything is usually not so good. Although when you are done cleaning, it's a good feeling, I guess. I mean, usually for me. But yeah, I think I know what you mean. You are omnipresent. Indeed, you are. Oh, it should be shout out / shout out. Of course. Why the heck did I use the exclamation mark? Because I'm an idiot. These are for like custom commands and stuff like, right? So shout out. I was hoping it's going to autocomplete, but I think I can nail the username. Nice. I'm going to click it to make sure that is the right channel, but hopefully it is. Yeah, my PC is not so fast, by the way. Yeah, it's the right one. Neat. Indeed. Thank you for that, by the way. I already learned something today, and this is what what this jam is all about, learning. Although this is not really related to the game, I guess, but still, it's learning experience. Appreciate that, thanks. And by the way, if you have to go or anything, Luis, if you want to, I don't know, take a break or get some food or anything, feel free to do so. Please don't feel the pressure to stay. Still, I appreciate it if you manage to do so. So I was just going to add an enemy, I guess. And for this, I'm going to add a little helper sprite first, which I'm going to call enemy. But actually, the sprite that I use for the enemy will be on a different object, just like with the player. So I'm just going to draw a circle, make sure that the hitbox is snug. So the player has essentially the same situation. The little white circle is the player object, which is the collider, and also it's what you control with the gamepad or the keyboard. And the other object that actually shows the sprite is called BB player, which is short for billboard. So yeah, I forgot to fix the origin. I'm just going to do that. Good. So the first enemy will be here, but I'm going to move these objects to the object templates layout in a short while, because they really shouldn't be on this layout. I'm just going to add some spawners, so all these objects like the player and the enemies will be created during runtime. Right. So we said I'll be lurking a little bit while getting myself some food. Nice. Go ahead. Bon appetit. Sorry, I don't know how to say it in Portuguese. Yeah. Thank you so much for showing up, and also thank you for the raid. I appreciate it a lot. Right, so enemy, yeah. The behavior on the enemy will be a good one. We are going to use physics for the first time in this game. And I will also talk a little bit about this physics stuff in Construct, because it's a stock behavior, but it's a little different from all the other behaviors, because it doesn't really care about solid behaviors, for example. So the player has the A direction behavior for movement, and if I have the solid on the walls, then the A direction object won't move through the walls because they are solid. But with physics, it's different a little. I'm just going to show you quickly what physics behavior is all about. Right now, if I run the game, something weird is going to happen. This one. So it's moving by itself, and this is because physics has a default gravity. So every time you add physics behavior on an object, you might want to change the gravity, but for some reason, and I guess I can say it's a good reason, you don't really set the gravity on the properties of the physics behavior. For this, you might want to create an action that initializes some aspects of this object or any physics object. So I think I'm just going to create, once again for cleanness sake, another event sheet called A_enemies, and I'm going to look for a nice emoji because I also always add emojis at the end of event sheet names. And for enemies, I usually do, is there a monster emoji? Oh yeah, a couple of them. The first one is pretty good. I think I'm just going to go with that. It's like a space invader or something. And just like with players, the enemies will have like an init action, which runs when they are created. And then they will definitely have a tick action, which will make sure that they are updated throughout the game. So every frame they change their position, for example, or attack the player, stuff like this. And I will probably add something like this as well. So for enemies, we also need to change the health points, and also we need health points. So to do this, I'm also going to create a family for the enemy object, and I'm going to consistently name it enemies. And also, I already made a mistake because the physics behavior shouldn't be on the enemy object, but it should be on the enemies family because it will make things easier later. So I'm just going to, whoops, not this one. Okay, so this other physics behavior that you see on screen, Canon 3D Physics, is actually not a stock behavior. It has a different styled icon anyway. This is something made by a super awesome third-party developer called Mikal, and he is freaking awesome at making all sorts of plugins for Construct, and usually mostly 3D stuff and physics and stuff like this. So yeah, I'm not going to use that behavior in this game. I just need plain old physics, which is 2D physics, and it utilizes the Box2D physics library, which is almost in all game engines as far as I know. So oh yeah, I think I missed that hydrate by Flavius. My voice might be given up at one point. Okay, so enemies family is done, enemy is in it, and it's now yeah, a family behavior, the physics. Good. So let's just create some custom actions. I'm going to create one for the enemies family called init. I'm also going to create one, once again, for the enemies family called tick. And also I'm going to create a third one, change HP. Although I'm pretty sure that I'm only going to hit enemies and subtract HP from their HP values. And also about HP, while we're on the subject. So the player has an HP and a max HP value. I'm just going to essentially do the same on the enemies. So I will add an HP variable, also a number. I'm going to set it to 1 by default. And also I'm going to set another value called max HP. And this I'm also going to set to 1, but I'm going to change that on this instance right now to, I don't know, 3 for now. This doesn't really matter because I'm going to have a bunch of enemies and they will have different health points. So Balancing is not something that I'm going to do right now, that's for sure. I will be just happy if some enemies are walking around and attacking the player until I finish the stream, so yeah. Yeah, I think Flavius, Brazil, in Brazil, Portuguese is also spoken, but it's not exactly the same as the Portuguese that they speak in Portugal, as far as I know, but I'm not really good at stuff like this, but I think just from my programming experience, there are these things called, oh, god damn it, I remember, like when you do internationalization, I love that word, so you do things for different locales, you have these little, I don't remember the correct name, but these little codes for certain countries and languages. And there is one called PTPT, so PT_PT, which is the Portuguese, the Portuguese that they speak in Portugal, and there is PTBR, the Portuguese that they speak in Brazil, I think, if I remember correctly. And the same thing goes for example, English. So there is ENGB for the Great British English, and ENUS for the American one, and stuff like this. Okay, bit of a tangent. So I'm still doing enemies, right? Okay, so I will need a billboard as well. I'm going to create that right now, and then I'm going to get stuck in the event sheets as well. So enemies, I need to look for some enemy sprites. I haven't decided which sprite to use, so most of them are in sprite sheets, but ooh, this is quite creepy. This is even creepier. Kind of like it. This is idle, this is running. I mean, yeah, these were made specially for Halloween, I think, by 0x72. But in this tile set, that is the dungeon tile set that I'm kind of using. I'm using a modified version which has darker walls, but it's essentially the same. So there are a bunch of enemies like these. I think I'm going to put it up to chat. So Flavius or anyone who's here, which of these enemies would you like me to add first to the game? Because we'll probably have a couple enemies, but if you can somehow describe the outlook of these enemies to me in chat, I will be happy to add the first enemy at one point. Skull Mask, okay, let me just look for that. There are, oh yeah, this one, right? So the green dude with the skull mask. Yes, okay, I like that. By the way, this skull mask thing is in the generator as well, I think. Not this one, but yeah, face, there it is. So, for example, Flavius, I know that you know about pixel art, so this might not be useful for you because you can actually draw, unlike me. But yeah, this little tool is freaking awesome if you ever want to just quickly whip up some similar looking characters. Yeah, and this skull mask is actually something that you can specify in this. Yeah, quick tangent. Okay, so I'm going to import these assets right now. And let me just, how did I do it the last time? Okay, I think I know. I'm going to drag the whole atlas or sprite sheet right here. I'm going to enable the grid. It's 16 by 16 if I'm not mistaken. And I'm going to enable it. Yeah, kind of. It's actually a bit bigger, I think, because they are overlapping a little. This is all right. Let me just check how the character looks. I mean the bounding box. So yeah, they are on the bottom, which is all right. So yeah, so this part is correct, but I might want to add a little space around. Or I can just reduce the grid to something like, I don't know, 4 by 4. And First, I'm just going to select these and crop it, and then I will deal with the rest later. Because it's a little tricky because of this little overlap. I'll deal with it somehow. Oh yeah, not the right tool, okay. So it should be something like this, I think. Yeah, indeed. I'm just going to crop it. And yeah, this time I'm actually going to do the right thing. So I will actually save this. Save current frame, because this is just one frame. And I'm going to go to this directory and actually say, or not even this one, but one up. So enemy1. And I am going to re-import it, but tell construct to treat it as a sprite sheet. So this one I'm going to grab and drop right here on the animation frame editor and say import from sprite strip. Oh, Infinitani, good to see you. Are you late? No, you're not. I mean, I'm getting a little tired. I mean, my brain cells are giving up on me, but I still want to finish the enemy movement and possibly attacking stuff. So yeah, I will probably stream for half an hour or an hour or something. Depends on how quickly I'm going to tackle this situation. So horizontal cells, there are 8, and vertical cells 1, direction horizontal, replace entire animation. This should work fine, and it did. Good. I'm going to set the speed to 10 frames per second, set loop as well, and I'm also going to duplicate this animation, and this is essentially the same that I did with the player. So right now there are 4 frames that are the idle animation and 4 frames that are the running animation. So I'm just going to call the animations accordingly. Running. By the way, Tani, how are you doing? What's the situation with your jam game? Tell me everything. And are you going to stream this weekend, by the way? Because I do want to check out other participants and how they are doing. Whoops. There's a bit of a situation, I think, with the origin. But yeah, it's completely wrong. Never mind that. I'm just going to assign it to the middle. I think for the player it was in the middle. And I'm going to say apply to all animations. Okay, so now it's the same. Let's just check if it looks fine or not. Okay, once again, just for consistency, since this frame and this frame... No, sorry, this is not the same. Okay, I said nothing because I wanted to remove this frame and change the animation to ping pong. But actually the little mask, the skull mask, is moving, moving around a little bit, which is neat. It's even a little angled in this frame. I love it. I think for this one, yeah, it stays the same. So if I generate a player, I mean an enemy character with this one, I could just probably do the ping pong thing and use 3 frames instead of 4. Never mind. So this is the running one. The origin should be fine. The speed is 10. The loop is on. Okay, this looks cool. There's also a little angling going on with this part of the mask. Neat. Okay. So this should be BB enemy1, I think, because I think all enemies will probably use, or not, I don't know, I'm not so sure yet, but yeah, they may or may not use the same object type, but yeah, they probably won't, because I want to make templates and have them, yeah, I will need to set the values for health points or hit points, and also the damage, and also some enemies will have like close quarters attacks, so if they touch the player, then the player will get damage, and some enemies I will want to have fire projectiles that the player will need to dodge. Also, I might want to add a little dodge or dash action, but this comes later. I'm guessing this weekend. Also, I'm going to check chat. So, Tani, you're out of town for a while, but be back home on Monday. Right. Game's going somewhat fine. I spent the day recording and setting up sound effects and voice lines. Awesome. You're doing your own sound effects and voice recording stuff? This is freaking cool. Working on fixing the actual puzzle part right now. Neato. I'm going to check on you then. I'm guessing on Monday. So if you're not going to stream this weekend, then you're going to stream next week, the beginning of next week, hopefully. Oops, my monitor is sleeping. Okay. I've never really done sound effect editing. I did some recording, but it was freaking fun. I have a friend called Tibor who usually does the graphics for the games that I make, unless he's occupied, and at this point he's pretty occupied, so I couldn't have him make the graphics for this gem game, but this is fine, I think. But yeah, we once had a little recording session. We spent a whole day in a garage with a bunch of different tools and objects, and recorded a bunch of heat sounds and different kinds of for example, we used water bottles, for example, to make some gory splashes and stuff like this. It was freaking fun. But once again, the procrastination part came after that, and we haven't really edited the sounds, not yet anyway. So yeah, at one point, hopefully we will, and then we can use the sounds in our games, but this didn't happen yet. It's a new experience for you too, the voice bit. Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, voice recording or voice acting is a different cup of tea than just, talking about random stuff on stream, for example. But it's really cool. I mean, I'm guessing this is one of the objectives of the jam, to do something that you haven't done before. So it's good on you for doing that. It's really cool. Recorded with the phone in the closet. Classic. Yeah. Yeah, I have a friend who's a singer, and he told me all about recording stuff in the closet and using like sheets and other soft equipment to pad out everything so it doesn't get echoey. Is that a word? I don't know. Okay, I'm just going to create another hierarchy meanwhile, just like I did with the player. I swapped things, I think. So yeah, let me just do that again. Okay, so now the billboard is actually attached to the enemy object, and the parent is the enemy object, and the billboard is the child. And just like with the player billboard, I only want to synchronize the X, Y, and possibly the Z coordinates, and make sure that the billboard gets destroyed if the enemy object is destroyed. So I'm just going to remove these checkboxes. Oh, not the checkboxes, but the check marks. Destroy parent, this is fine. Also, I think I will add a little line just like I did for the player. So I know which way the enemy object is facing. And I'm just going to move the enemy a little closer and possibly make the sprite a little smaller. There's actually some implication of the size in terms of the physics movement, because Construct calculates the weight of objects by taking into account the size. In this case, this is 14 by 14, and also something called density. So to calculate the mass, you essentially, I think, multiply the density with the size. So the force that you use to move something around will have to be adjusted if you resize the object. Or you can also dynamically calculate the amount of the force or impulse you're giving a physics object depending on the mass and not the density and the size. So yeah, I think this is all right. I'm just going to move this right here. So the enemy is lurking over there and they are not seeing the player. I also mentioned, I think, that I want to have the line of sight behavior added because, and not on the object, but on the family. Because I want the enemies to spot the player when they move over here, for example. And for this, we are going to use line of sight, which is also a stock behavior in Construct. You just give it a range, and this is in pixels, and this is way too big, so I'm just going to reduce this to like 100 pixels for now. And you can also give it a cone of view, but in this case, I'm just going to leave it at 360 degrees. Then again, I could just use some normal distance calculation and overlap checks, but this is easier, so this I'm going to use. Also, I'm going to check chat, 1 second. All right, go ahead, Tony. Feel free to, leave at any time, of course. Thank you so much for popping in, by the way. Yeah, that's a lot of games on my age. Oh yeah, and most of them are just, crappy prototypes, but some of them are not so crappy prototypes, but they are all prototypes. Nothing is finished, essentially, or nothing is flashed out, but yeah. This year, I'm just going to do as many game jams as possible. Essentially, I set a little goal for me at the beginning of the year to make at least one game every month. And so far, I think I've made 6 or 7, so it's going all right. You got 3, that's all right. But then again, I'm, quite a bit older, and I'm guessing that I might have started a little earlier. I'm the game dev journey than you, so this is fine. And also, it's not about the quantity, so I really just like to start new projects all the time because my attention span is, not great. I read everything. You can feel free to leave. Thank you, Tony, once again for dropping by. I appreciate it a lot. It's nice of you. And I will hope to catch you next week, I guess, if you're streaming. So be sure to announce it on the Captain's Discord so I don't miss it. Although I follow you, so I will probably won't miss it either. So yeah. Okay, so where was I? Yeah, I think I need to add some actual actions. So just like with the player, I'm going to call the init and tick functions essentially the same way. So I have this little event sheet called eCreated, where I only put events that have conditions like this, sorry. So enemies created, and I'm going to call enemies init, just like with the player. And this is called only once when an object instance is created on the layout. And also for cycles, I am going to add an action, enemies tick. Now this might not cut it, but for now, since we only have one enemy, this should work fine. But later I might want to change this to for each enemy tick, but we'll see. This is one of the tricky parts in Construct, especially if you're not so accustomed to how things work internally. But yeah, I'll get back to this topic later. So the init action should do at first some initialization of the physics behavior. So I mentioned this gravity stuff. I'm just going to set the gravity to 0, which means that there is no gravity. So right now, if I run the game, hopefully the enemy should stay right there. Indeed, they are there. And also, there's no collision checking going on or any actions that might move the enemy and the player around. So, but this is all right. However, I think I might not want the enemies to overlap with the player, or would I? I will get back to this. Right now, overlapping is fine because somehow I need to, of course, check if the enemies are actually touching the player, so I can call the change HP custom action of the player and take some damage on them. But yeah, right now this is fine. So enemies tick. Okay, I need to add some check that essentially just calls the line of sight behaviors. Is there a line of sight to somewhere, in this case the player? And if there is, then I should switch some state on the enemy that makes the actual movement behavior work. Well, this wasn't a sentence, but never mind. So I just want to and the enemies to move on the player if they have line of sight to them. That's it. And for this, I think I'm just going to either do the check here, or I'm quickly going to say if see if there's a trigger actually. So no, these are not triggers. This is fine. So I'm just going to check right here at every tick. So enemies and has line of sight to an object. And this object is the player or the player's family to be exact. I'm also always referencing every object by their parent families if they have one. So, okay, this should happen if I move the player from here to here. So right now I'm just going to move the enemy at a certain speed towards the player, and at this point I'm going to either show you a little project that I did that is a template that I usually use for this sort of thing when there are a bunch of enemies and they should also all move on the player. Yeah, I think I will actually, since my itch page was mentioned anyway. So at 40.itch.io there is actually a survivors-like template for Construct. And this little template might have some sprites that look kind of familiar because once again, these are made with this because I kind of like these sprites. So there's this little player character. Incidentally, he's wearing a hat. And if I press space, some enemies will start spawning around, kind of like in Vampire Survivors. So you don't really see them spawning because they are spawning off screen, and they are all closing on the player. So if I move over here, all enemies will just try to go in my direction. And the player character in this case is quite fast, so I can easily leave the enemies behind. But if I had a bunch of more enemies, then this might get a little trickier. So as you can see, the enemies are not really overlapping each other, not a lot anyway. Their colliders are smaller than their sprites once again, and they are also circular, just like in the game that I'm making. And all the enemies are moved using the physics behavior. And it's a little tricky because actually at every tick I'm stopping all enemies and I'm also moving them a little. So it's not a constant movement, but it's intermittent. So it's stopping, moving, but because it's happening so fast that then you don't really see the stopping bit. But this is also needed, so they are not moving around too erratically. And also, since the physics behavior is used on these enemies, the physics behavior makes sure that the enemies don't overlap. So this is mostly it. And as you can see, the player can move through the wall of the enemies, and the player also pushes around the enemies, so they don't really overlap. I mean, there's a little effect that kicks in when there are enemies close to the player within a certain radius. This is just some distance calculation stuff. But actually there is no overlap checks or anything going on, only the classic radial distance calculation based stuff. So yeah, and the player I think also has the physics behavior on them, and it is set to immovable, and I'm moving the player using the A direction behavior in this example as well, but let me just show you. So if anyone is interested in doing something like this, then they can just download the project file because it's available for free and it's open source and MIT licensed and everything. So yeah, I'm just going to save the project file right here just to show you the internal workings because I'm going to copy this. mostly. So let me just open that and also hydrate while it's opening. Yeah, thanks. This is not Construct's fault, I think. This is Chromium. The problem is that Chromium doesn't really handle the file association situation to progressive web apps too well. I mean, sometimes it's working, sometimes it's not working. Yeah. Since Construct is just a web application, it's all JavaScript. It's essentially a website that you're looking at right now. But you can install it as a progressive web app if you're using Chromium or anything that is Chromium based. And this also has the advantage that you can actually have file associations of certain extensions like C3P, which is the Construct project file format. This is just a zip file, by the way, but it has the C3P extension. So you can tell the browser and the system, Windows in this case, to have the file type associated to this progressive web app, but sometimes it's not working as you saw. So yeah. Okay, I just want to show you the enemy situation. So there is the init action for the enemy object in this template, and also this is the main part. So enemy tick is consisting of these actions. I set the physics velocity to 0 and 0, which means that they just stop. Then I set the angle of the enemy toward the player, so they are essentially facing the player. And I'm using the apply force action with a certain value that is calculated based on a variable and also multiplied by delta time, so it's not frame rate dependent, and at the angle of the enemy, which we set right here. So yeah, this is mostly it, and this is what I'm going to copy. And also there's some billboard flipping happening right here. It's essentially the same as the one that I did for the player right here, although the numbers are different, but that doesn't matter. Okay, so let me just see if I can copy this, because I do have an enemy sprite. Yeah, although I'm missing the movement speed, not behavior instance variable, so I think I'm just going to create one for the enemies. So family instance variables, movement speed, done. I could just add the actions as well, but why not copy if it's possible? Although, since I'm utilizing the enemies family, I'm going to replace the objects, the enemy objects, with the enemies family reference. And you can just do that in Construct because it's neat. It's refactoring once again, replacing something with another similar thing. So yeah. So right now, if the enemies have a line of sight to the player, then they should start moving at a certain speed, which I'm going to set right now, because it's right now 0. So if I set this to 120, I don't know if this is going to work or not, then hopefully the enemy should start moving once I move a little to the left. And indeed they are moving, which is neat. So this is not pathfinding or anything. If I move right here, they don't have line of sight, but they keep moving. Now they have line of sight. So I'm essentially faking some AI or pathfinding. It's not too great, but yeah. It's pretty good, I think. Good for this anyway. So if I move over here, let me just make some different. So if I move here, for example, then move here, then the enemy will keep moving in the same direction because of the physics. Ooh, and now it spotted me. But if I move here, they are not going to spot me, or are they? No. Yeah, there's a little bit of a collision issue. The enemy is going through the walls. Yeah, I'm just going to fix that by adding physics behavior on the walls. Once again, not this one, the other one. And of course, I will need to unlock the walls layer so I can select the walls object, and the physics behavior should be set to immovable. So the walls actually are not movable at all. And I think I'm just going to say use collision polygon. This should work fine. You can set the friction and elasticity. In this case, I don't think we need elasticity at all, but I'm just going to leave it at the default value because why not? And friction is something that might be taken into actually, so it might be used because if two physics objects are essentially sliding across, or I mean sliding along each other, then this friction coefficient will determine how fast they would be able to slide. For example, the enemy, how fast they would be sliding across the wall. But I'm not going to, once again, change that. I'm just going to leave it at that, because I can also set these values on the enemy as well, and both values are taken into account, I think. So, okay, I'm going to log this back, move on back to the main layer, and also check if the enemy is now colliding with the wall, since the wall has a physics behavior in it, so they really should. Okay, I think I might also want to do something like if the enemy has no line of sight to the player after a few seconds, then they should just stop. So also, I think I'm going to make the enemy a little smarter. I mean, not smart, so to speak, but have a little bigger range, like 200 pixels instead of 100, so they can make chase better. Okay, but this is also something that I can set separately for different enemies later. So, okay, right. I need to add the timer behavior on the enemies. Let me just hydrate quickly. And timers work by specifying timer tags. So I'm just going to create a timer tag via a macro. So how do I name it? I want this timer to reflect its purpose, and the purpose is to, so I'm going to start the timer when the line of sight of the enemy is active to the player. I mean, when the player has when the enemy has line of sight to the player, I'm going to start the timer, and I'm going to restart the timer while this is going on. So if the player manages to hide from the enemy behind a wall, then this timer will just keep ticking and won't restart, and at one point it will run out, and at that point I'm going to stop the enemy, I think. So how do I name this? One of the hardest things in computer science is naming things, and I'm not going to tell you about the other one. Bob. But why Bob? Wasn't Bob a name suggestion for one of the cursed arts on the 2Nerdy stream? At one point, Flavius, do you know anything about this? Why not Bob? Yeah, I mean, why not Bob? I'm just going to go ahead and call it Bob. And also I'm going to add a description by Flavius. Credit where credit is due. Okay, so enemies, if they have line of sight, then they should have this timer started. Also, the question is, how long do I want the timer to run? And where do I specify that? Because it either needs to be in an instance variable that I can set for each enemy, or I can just use a constant that is global and use this for all enemies. BRB going to pick up wife. Nice, go for it. Meanwhile, I'm going to just create a constant. I haven't created any, so I mean, I created macros, but technically they are not constants. I mean, technically they are constants, but I'm not using them as constants. I'm just using them as references. So under constants, I'm going to create a new constant, and for proper constants, I like to use this little prefix, capital C and underscore, and say something like enemy Bob timer, of course, because consistency. And I'm going to set it to 3 seconds at this point. I'm going to make it a constant, and I'm going to reference this when I'm starting the timer on the enemy. So enemies start timer, and if I run start timer, and the timer is already running, then it will just restart, I think. So hopefully it should work. So the duration should be whatever is in the enemy Bob timer constant. It should be a one-off timer. So when it's expired, then the timer should stop and not restart. This would be the one that would restart. And for tag, I'm going to specify timer Bob. So yeah, and this only happens if the enemy has line of sight to the player. So all I need now is to have a little timer trigger, and these should all go in the eTimers event sheet. So I'm just going to say enemies on timer Bob. So when this timer is up, so when it's finished, when it's done, then the enemy should just stop. And this should, yeah, the easiest thing would be to just set the velocity once again of the enemy to 0, 0, and this should make them stop, because right now the enemies are only moving while they have a line of sight, but when the player's out of sight, they still keep moving, but this is because there is no gravity. And since there is no gravity, there is nothing that will slow the enemy down. I mean, there might be something, because there is a little factor that you can also specify for the physics behavior. And it's right here, called linear damping. So linear damping is, if it's 0, then the physics movement won't slow down unless there's a collision or something. But if you set this to, like, I don't know, 0.5, then it should gradually slow down by itself if they don't receive any impulse or force. So this might be something that I play with later. So actually, when the player is leaving the line of sight of the enemy, then the enemy will just keep moving, but gradually slow down a bit. But right now, I'm not doing that. So they will just retain the speed, and they will only stop when the timer is up. So 3 seconds after the player is gone from the enemy's sight, then they should stop. I mean, hopefully this will work. Please think about the moderator thing. Ooh, yeah, I will, definitely. Definitely. I think I'm going to drop you a message on Discord later, if that's all right, if you're still here. But if not, I'm still going to drop you a message. Okay, so the enemy stopped. So the player is moving about, the enemy is still chasing them. And yeah, the timer, nice. Okay, the timer ran out, but then I moved a little, and I think because of that, it's lucky that things are working seemingly fine, but some of the things that are happening are not exactly intentional at this point, not by me. It's just neat because it looks kind of like, yeah, when the enemy collided with the wall actually hit them, so they moved a little further from the wall because of that. And this is all right, I think. Boom. Yeah. Yeah, this could work, I think. Maybe the speed is a little low at this point. I do want although maybe the player is a little fast, but yeah, I'm just going to set the enemy's movement speed variable to 180. Yeah, this collision stuff might be a little tricky. This is because of the bounciness property, I think. So right now the bounciness is set to the default, now not bounciness, elasticity. So this is the one. So when the enemy is colliding with the wall, they actually bounce back a little because they are slightly elastic. If I remove this value and also remove the same value for the wall, this means that neither of them will be elastic, which might look better. It's a little weird that the enemy is moving then bouncing off the wall. So I'm just going to yeah, they still seem to be bouncing a little, but this is fine, I think. Okay, no, they didn't. But this is cool. I mean, I'm totally believing that some sort of advanced AI is moving the enemy, but really there is no such thing, not anyway. The speed of the enemy, however, seems like it's not consistent, which may or may not be a problem. I'm just not sure if they can actually speed up when I'm not in their sight. Because I kind of saw something like this, but I might be wrong. Oh, this is cool. I think I'm going to leave it at that. And I'm probably going to stop streaming soon because I am getting a little tired, so right. Let me just check the to-do list. So add assets, basic level design. Yeah, this is shaky. I'm just going to put a little, I don't know how to pronounce this, tilde character here because this is not the proper level design that I'm after, but there are some walls, so it's something. And add some enemies, physics-based movement that starts at first line of sight to player. This is done. Off-screen enemy spawning. Okay, this is something that I'm going to do before finishing, that's for sure. And or gates. I don't think I'm going to do gates. I considered using this nice sprite and this version as well. So sometimes when you see a door, then it just opens and a bunch of enemies come moving out of the doorway, but I don't think I'm going to do that. Instead, I'm going to opt in to do some off-screen spawning, kind of similar like in the example project that I showed, but not exactly the same because I need to consider the whole tile map situation. So I really don't want enemies to spawn on walls. So yeah, I'm just going to give it a little think through because I haven't yet. But essentially the whole game will be, I think, just one level, and it will be probably this size or something similar. So the player can move around and they can come back to certain parts of the level and find a bunch of enemies there, because I will want to spawn enemies off screen. So essentially the player starts here, sees a bunch of enemies, kills them, moves around, and there are enemies everywhere all the time. And if you even move back to the same spot that you started from, there are once again enemies there and you need to kill them. So you can just stay at the same level and keep killing. And the enemies will, of course, get harder to kill over time. So I will probably spawn some basic enemies at first and add some more badass ones later. Possibly these guys. They look freaking scary. So that's the plan anyway. Okay, I'm going to make a little spawner mechanic, and I think I'm going to call it today. And the question is, when do I continue development? Because the timer, I mean the deadline for the gem is coming up fast, and tomorrow because I'm a freaking idiot, I'm doing 2 game jams at this point, and the other game jam is the monthly game jam that I've been doing all year, essentially, except for January. And I only have a little dinky half of a prototype for that. So tomorrow I'm going to work on that. And I think this means that I might want to continue making this game on Sunday. But it's possible that it will be Monday. So can't really promise anything at this point. Yeah, okay, so in any case, I'm going to make the enemy spawn happen. And for this, I'm going to create a custom action for the enemy's object called spawn. And this is something that I usually have in all typical situations. So there are custom actions for spawning, initializing, and ticking or updating, processing the objects, the actors, so to speak. So the players and the enemies. Okay, so enemy spawn. How do I want to do that? Because one idea I had is to have like spawner zones placed scattered all around the map, and use those. Randomly select some of them at certain times, at certain intervals, and only select the ones that are off screen. So the player doesn't see the enemy spawning situation. They only encounter the enemies when they are moving closer to a certain spawner. Okay, so I think I'm going to do the noob thing and set up some spawner objects, some spawn helpers, so to speak. And for those, I don't need any graphics or anything. I'm just going to use a tiled background type object. I'm going to say it's spawner, and I'm just going to paint a little handmade S letter on it, just so I can spot it quickly. Ooh, freaking grid. Okay, this is perfect. So I think I'm going to put it on the main layer, or maybe I'm going to add another layer for this spawner layer so I can turn it off. Okay, so right now I'm going to add some spawner objects, spawner instances. This is going to look horrible, but this will actually work because I thought about this, and I think it will probably work. So, and of course, enemies can spawn anywhere on these spawner helper sprites, not sprites, tiled backgrounds, but they essentially act like sprites, except for the graphics part, so they are tiled. I'm not going to add too many, since there are no there's no real level or anything. I'm just going to randomly add a bunch of them here and there. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to lock it and hide the layer. So for now, I think I'm just going to set up a little timer that makes the enemy spawn. Now the question is, where do I run the timer? I'm not even going to set up a timer, I think. I'm just going to add an every X seconds situation. So every X seconds, and this will be, I don't know, 2 seconds. I'm going to select the spawners that are not on screen, and I'm going to randomly pick one of them. And I am also going to create an object of the enemy's family on the main layer. And okay, so the X and Y positions of the newly spawned enemy back. Nice. By the way, Flavius, I don't know if you heard, but soon I'm going to wrap up, I think, because my brain cells are giving up on me. So I'm just going to make the enemy spawner thing work, kind of, and then I think I'm going to finish for today. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Okay, so yeah, I'm selecting the off-screen spawners, picking one instance of them randomly, and then I'm going to say something like random and spawner.bb left, spawner.bb right. So essentially I want the enemy to spawn anywhere completely randomly on the spawner object. And for this, I'm just going to utilize the built-in random expression, which is just the usual random number generator thing, which can accept either 1 or 2 values. If you specify 2 values, then the first one will be inclusive and the other one is non-inclusive, but this is not a big deal anyway. So essentially it will return a number between these 2 values, but it will never be this value. However, it can be this value. That's about it. So the X position is from the left and right bounding box of the spawner object, and the Y position, of course, is B box top, and spawner B box bottom is the other part of the interval. And I will definitely want to have the whole hierarchy created, because already we have a little parent-child situation, because the enemy object is the parent and the BB enemy one bounding box is the child. So this also means that I can remove this, cut it from here and move them to the object template layout, because I don't want any enemies to spawn at first when the game is run. However, at the 2-second mark, one enemy should spawn off screen on one of the spawners at a random position on that spawner, essentially. Okay, I'm just going to test this right now. I deserve it as, yeah, I think I do. I mean, my output might not be great, but I'm really getting tired, so yeah. By the way, how long I've been streaming? Okay, it's almost 3 hours. This is alright. Oops, I might want to hide these objects. I really don't want them to be visible. Boom. Okay, they are not visible anymore. So let's just see if some enemies are actually spawning. And the other good thing about physics and using physics for the enemy movement is that should a situation occur that an enemy is spawning on top of another enemy, because of the physics, they should just get separated at one point. So one enemy will essentially push out the other enemy. Oh yeah, there they are. A couple of them. I haven't implemented the shooting damaging situation, but yeah, now I'm moving back to the first part of the level. There are a bunch of enemies here, and also there are a bunch of enemies here. Okay, this is okay, I guess. I'm going to move over here a little and just go back to the first part of the level to see, yeah, more enemies. I think this is all right. I mean, for the first implementation. And it will probably be the last implementation as well, because pretty happy with that. I just need to come up with a proper layout for the level, arena style design. So there are a bunch of rooms, but there are also a bunch of open spaces, so fighting can occur with a great number of enemies as well, should it happen. Okay, so the spawning is working all right. I just can't not add the enemy health and dying situation, so I'm quickly going to do that and then really wrap up. So enemies already have an HP and max HP instance variable, however they are not initialized. So right now at the init function, not function, custom action, I just want to do essentially the same thing I did with the players. So I want to set the value of the HP variable to whatever is in the max HP variable. So as you can see, the max HP of an enemy is 3 and the HP is 1, just for good measure. but when they spawn, they actually start with 3 health points and not 1, because this little init custom action will set their health points to the max. And I think I'm just going to really quickly add a little collision check. So if a projectile hits an enemy, I want the projectile to damage the enemy, and if the enemy is all out of health points, I'm just going to destroy them. I'm not even going to add any juice or any animation to this, but I will next time, definitely. So, quick collision check. Projectile on collision with another object, and that other object is enemies. Whoops, okay. Yeah, typing issues. This is also a sign of mental despair. So yeah, I'm going to say enemies, change HP, and I think I forgot to actually add the parameter for that, so I'm just going to rectify that. And what did I name the other one for the player? Let me just check. HP change, okay. Boom. Also, I think I'm going to yoink a bunch of things, because why not? Do the enemies have tween? Not yet, but now they do. So I'm just going to literally copy all of this and add it right here, and also this, of course. And since the variable names are the same, so HP and max HP are values that exist on the player's family and also on the enemy's family, I can just do something like this. I select the actions, I click replace object, and I'm going to specify which object do I want the player's family to replace with. Was that a sentence? I don't know. So the player's family reference, so all of this will be replaced with this. Boom. And also I'm going to do that here, of course, as well. So essentially the same thing is happening. I mean, I could probably do something like using the same custom action for all entities that have HP. I could create a family that says, I don't know, Bobs with HP or something, and I can do the same custom action only in one place. However, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to add a bunch of different stuff for enemies and players in these change HP custom actions at one point. So yeah. Okay. Also HP change. Now I specified it. I'm just going to quickly jump to the point where I call this, and I'm not even going to bother with properly setting the damage on the projectile or anything. I'm just going to say that one hit points should be taken away when the player hits an enemy. And one thing I forgot is to also destroy the projectile when the enemy is hit, because I don't want the projectile to go through 3 enemies, for example, and damage all of them. So I'm just going to do that. Right, moving around. Oh no, there are enemies. Boom. They are not dying, but the projectiles are getting destroyed, so this is something. I might have forgot to do something. Okay. Enough HP, set max HP. Okay. Oh yeah, I know what I did. I'm healing the enemies because HP change can either be a negative or a positive number, and I'm calling right now change HP with 1, which means that each projectile hit will heal the enemy with 1 hit point. So I'm just going to add the little minus and see if this works a little better, and it really should. Okay. The other thing that I'm seeing is that the little red effect only shows on the enemy and not the billboard sprite. And this is something that I'm going to fix before I end up today. I mean, before I finish up. Oof, problems. Okay, so for this to work, and I'm guessing the same issue is happening with the player as well, because I don't think Construct allows you to synchronize the color between parent, child, relationships. So if I select the billboard for the player, yeah, I can synchronize the angle, opacity, visibility, but not the color. So I will definitely need to tween the color of billboards. And for this, I will definitely create a family for these billboards. And as you can see, I selected both of them, but this will actually not work for some reason, because only one billboard is here, but never mind, I'm just going to fix that. So I'm going to add tween to this billboards family. And when the enemies are getting hit, I actually want the enemy's billboard to be picked. So enemies pick children, and I'm going to say billboards, which is a family, but this will mean that, for example, if an enemy has the BB enemy 1 billboard object as a child, then it will get picked. So the whole tweening thing should really happen on the billboard and not the enemy. And I can just once again do that, because Construct is freaking awesome. And I can replace objects if they have the same behaviors, same instance variables that are referenced. Okay, and just for good measure, I'm going to do the same thing for the player, although I don't think I'm going to actually have the player take damage touching the enemies. Not today. Next time. So, yeah. Pick children, billboards. Good. This should work. Let me just check. I have infinite out. Yeah, they were absolutely getting killed. Okay, now there's a little red effect when I hit the enemies. Also, you said, Flavius, I screwed up my enemies. Thank God for backups. Oh yeah, absolutely. How are you making backups, by the way? I'm usually interested in this sort of thing because I am quite opinionated on this thing. Are you making manual backups, or do you have something like, I don't know, Google Drive or Dropbox or something maybe to store the project, or using Git possibly? Boom. Okay, I'm just going to hide the enemy object, the little white circle. By the way, did I make the flipping thing? No, I did not. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do that. I still have this one open. Nice. So I'm going to yoink that. This is really lazy stuff, but there you go. Okay, so if enemies are between blah 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 and blah blah, then I want the billboards to flip. I'm just going to copy this right here. So at every tick I'm going to pick the related billboards of the enemies, and I can just do the flipping thing. So this one should say billboards flipped, not flipped, mirrored. Once again, I'm always confusing these. So mirrored, but this should be, yeah, this should be mirrored, and the other one should be not mirrored. Let me just check. Now the enemy billboard should be turning. Okay, it's facing the right direction, and it's still facing the right direction. This is not great, but why? I think I have a hunch. No, it's not the width and height transformation thing. Okay, this is a bit weird. Yeah, although I mentioned earlier that this enemy tick stuff might need to happen with for each condition, so let me just quickly check. Also, at first I'm going to check if this is something that I did in the template. No, I did not. Okay, interesting. So something else might be off, but just to be safe, I'm going to add the little whoops for each. Not the ordered one. Oh my god, I'm making mistakes. Definitely need to end this stream. So enemies And I'm going to move the enemy stick right here. For each is usually not a great idea performance-wise, so I try to avoid it anytime I can. Yeah, but it does fix this situation, which is a bit weird. I wonder if this has anything to do with the fact that I'm using families, and in this template I'm not using families. Okay. I don't think this is going to do I don't think this is going to do it or make a change, but I'm just going to go ahead and try. Yeah, they are still moonwalking essentially. Okay, Flavius, you wrote a Python code that you have on USB flash drive. So when you connect the drive, the Python code runs and basically copies the whole game to the USB drive. This is freaking neat. So you wrote your own automatic external backup software. Nice. But are you making separate copies? So like, are you making a copy in a new folder or something with a timestamp? Or are you just saving the last version always and overwriting the previous save? I used to have some kind of backup like this, but it wasn't so reliable. I was using some sort of software for something similar for external backups at one point. I don't even remember the name of the software, I think. But yeah, it wasn't reliable, unfortunately. Yours might be better. Okay, so this moonwalking situation persists. I think I know what's happening, but I'm not sure. Let me just check one more thing. Oh yeah, this was the difference. So in the template, I'm actually picking the billboards right here and not at the top. Also, I have this little other condition, but yeah, this didn't make it to my implementation in this project, I think. Yeah, this is fine. I'm not quite sure what's going on at this point, but for good reason. I'm tired, so I'm just going to end it here. I think I will also, add this little extra check just to be safe. I'm not sure if it's needed or not. Essentially, it's only doing the mirroring thing if they are not mirrored yet. But this is probably for some really minor performance optimization purpose, but I don't think it's a big deal. But just to be safe, I'm going to copy it. So billboards, billboards mirrored is mirrored. If it's not mirrored, then it should be mirrored. And if it's mirrored, then it shouldn't be mirrored in this case. So yeah. Okay, I'm going to check chat and also make a final export for today. So every time you connect the drive to the PC, a new folder is created in Nido, because then you have basically like an automatic history. This is cool. Also, you have 5 folders already created, so if you want to make a new backup, the oldest one gets deleted. So there's like a garbage collection thing going on as well. This is freaking cool, Flavius. So did you make this because you wanted to make sure what's happening, or have you tried any like third-party automated backup solutions? Because I think there might be a couple good ones, although I'm not using any of them, not at this point anyway. I just store everything in Dropbox these days, and also I have some intermittent manual external backups happening, and I also use 3 separate PCs, so essentially I do have like, I don't know, multiple copies of the backups, but I should really think about this sort of thing because I'm absolutely terrified of losing data and losing work, so maybe Dropbox is not cutting it. Anyway. Okay, meanwhile, I was doing an export. And also I want to call the little script that uploads the final version to Twitch. Come on, PC, don't be that slow. Nice. Get the hat, and there are no hats yet in the game, which is troubling. But yeah, next time, which will probably be on Sunday. Ooh, something happened. The Van Dev, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, thank you for the follow, much appreciated. Can I ask you, where did you find the stream? Was it just a random Twitch browse situation, or do you come from the Captain Coders Discord possibly? Maybe you're partaking in the gem as well? Do tell if you want, but if you don't, that is totally fine as well. Still, thank you for the follow, much appreciated. As you can see, I have a little twin stick shooter thing going on, but it's really simple at this point. The player has one type of weapon, infinite shooting stuff, and there are enemies spawning off screen, but they are super simple ones and they don't even damage the player, not at this point. Ooh, this is freaky. This is constantly trying to move on the position of the player and doing this little dance at the end. And as you can see, the enemies are not overlapping because of the physics, so they just push each other around a little. This is neat. So yeah, you can shoot enemies, but the enemies can damage you, not yet anyway. And I will probably wrap up this stream soon. Also, I will probably want to add some randomization of the shooting angle, because this is too straight of a line. I think I'm going to try to nick everything from Nuclear Throne if possible. It's freaking juicy, and one of the things that makes things juicy is some randomization here and there, like the shooting angle. All right. It looks like I'm shooting little pears or something. I mean the fruit. It's quite fast as well as the projectile. Chat. Oh, the Captain Coders Discord. Nice. Really? You don't know C3 at all? Or have you maybe heard of it but haven't seen it yet or anything? Because I would be happy to give you a really quick tour, because I do want to stop streaming at this point. I've been streaming for 3 hours and my brain cells are kind of giving up, but I would be happy to give you just a little quick tour how things are working if you want. No pressure. Yeah, not many people use Construct anyway, usually on Twitch, for example. There are a couple streamers, for example, there's Vimlark, who is a Construct veteran, and also he's a really good game designer. Also, he does pixel art. I think now that I know how to make a shout out, I think I'm going to give him one. So, yeah. One of the best Construct streamers, I think, out there. There's also White Vault, I think, who still using Construct, but I think they are considering moving to Godot. I think I heard something about that a couple streams ago. Also, who else is there? I'm not even sure if there are too many other people doing Construct. I mean, who I know. There's also a little Discord server for the Construct community, and I try to sometimes plug my own stuff, like streams, but not too much. But I haven't really so many other people saying that, hey, cool, I stream as well. So yeah, one of the reasons that I'm doing this sort of thing is to possibly find some other people who are either interested in watching construct streams or tutorials, or just other streamers who are also using Construct. Because there's quite a big user base, but there are not so many tutorials, for example, on YouTube. And Construct is a freaking good engine anyway. Zero at all. Usually use Unreal and Unity. Ooh, okay. Baby must be. Yeah. How do I say it? Yeah. So you need to put your baby to sleep. This is cool. You'll be back. Yeah. I think I'm going to wrap up in a few minutes. So yeah, possibly next stream. But since you are following, then hopefully you will be able to catch my next stream, which will probably be on Sunday, possibly on Monday or Monday. I will try to make at least 2 more streams until the GEMS deadline, because there's a lot to do. And since I'm making the whole thing as a tutorial, this whole streaming thing, because I'm uploading everything to YouTube. By the way, if you want, you can also check out the VODs panel under the stream. It links to my YouTube playlist, which has all my game dev stuff, mostly just stream archives. So you can watch back and maybe, give it a little go. Because yeah, Construct is something that is quite different from all the other engines. So yeah, but you're not here, so I don't know why I'm talking about this part. All right. Okay. Okay. So I made the export. Let me just check the to-do list again. Add some enemies. Physics-based movement. This is done. They are spawning. So I think I'm going to put a little check mark right here. Destroyed enemies should drop something that can be collected by the player. This will definitely need to happen. Touch input, screen shake, sounds. Yeah, these are just random things, but I first need to make a better to-do list, because there are a bunch of other stuff that I talked about on this stream, and I didn't make any note of them, although I kind of have an idea about these. So yeah, the hats. Yeah. Hats, weapons. I'm just going to make a quick note, because this is something that I really need to implement first, I think. And possibly the drops as well. Touch input is something that I may or may not do, although it's quite easy, so I probably will. So the game can be played on mobile as well. Screen shake, yeah. And juice. This is just something that I am going to generically note. So yeah, and sounds. Possibly some music, I don't know. Okay, so I guess this is it for today. I'm going to add a bunch more enemies from these sprite sheets. Definitely, because now that I have one enemy, it's quite easy to just copy them, create a template from them, and have different values, for example, for their movement speed and health points and stuff like this, and add the different billboard graphic for them so they look different. Right. Done. Oh yeah, you should definitely check out the YouTube channel. The link is right below the stream, and you can just scroll through some of the more recent videos. I have 2 stream archives uploaded that I've done for this particular gem. Ooh, this wasn't a sentence. I really need to finish up. So yeah, this was day 3 essentially, and you can watch the previous episodes as well. And I'm probably going to upload this stream archive tomorrow. So yeah. Once again, thank you so much for watching. For anyone who popped in. Whoops, sorry, microphone pop. So I'm going to wrap up for today, and hope to see you on Sunday or possibly Monday. I'm going to keep working on the on this game only when I'm streaming, so I'm not going to do anything off stream. So I will just pick up where I left off right now. So yeah, thanks again for everyone who partake and watched and chatted and stuff like this. Flavius, I'm going to hit you up on Discord, definitely. And I'm going to read your message. And thank God it's a short one. Thank you for having mercy on me, because I wouldn't be able to read a proper long one. So thank you for the stream. Take care, stay safe, stay awesome, save often. See you next time. Bye-bye. Thanks, Flavius. And thanks everyone. So I'm going to call it a night. Goodbye, everyone.